Your fabrics in the club shop as of next Thursday. If you want to enter the competition, press the number 1 on your phone now.
That's it, lads, that's it. Keep it tight, keep it tight. Remember what I told you? The ball is your best friend. Good work, Darren. OK, lads. OK, gather round now, gather round. Right. So what have we learned from this morning's session?
We've learned the correct way to beat a traffic cone.
You won't get much from a crap first touch. One to remember. It all comes down to practice. Look at Biggsy there. He was an apprentice just like you lot. He's been a top-line goalie now for 18 years, but he still practices day and night.
Biggsy!
When I'm
Biggsy!
coaching my apprentices...
30 quid says you don't lay a finger on this.
Yeah, 50 quid says I do.
Yes! Roebuck, the Predator scores again!
What the bloody hell's that? It's been no celebration, isn't it? The Roebuck screw. I'm going to make it my trademark.
And what else do you need to make the grade in this great game? To follow in the hallowed footsteps of Greavesy, Bestie, Bowley, Rushy and Robbo. I'll tell you, you need professionalism. Professionalism. So that's professionalism, practice, and the third P is...
passion. That's what it boils down to, Cliff. Passion. I have this passion for the game. More pretty. And that's why I'm backing your campaign to drive the sleaze from football. And believe me, Cliff, I've talked to all the other club chairmen, and they all agree you are the Hercules to flush the stenching muck from our Augean stable.
Oh, please.
You're a superb figurehead for the FA. No, it needs saying. No, and incidentally, I meant to say this at the time. I thought you were great announcing the semi-final draw.
Well, I only read out the names.
Yeah, but you've got charisma. Camera likes you. Manchester United will play Crystal Palace or Wolverhampton Wanderers. Very impressive. You must have had some training.
No.
No, well, you're a natural. Marvellous. Oh, I know what I meant to ask you. Any news about your lot's inquiry into our manager's financial dealings?
Remember, football can be a cruel mistress, but when she smiles on you, it's fabulous. On April the 21st, 1969, I headed the goal that clinched promotion for this club. I was carried shoulder high from the pitch. For a year, I didn't pay for a single meal in this town. And if you're lucky, some of you may experience magical moments like that one, if you've got it here. Right-o, lads, well, that's all for today. Could a few of you give us a hand with these cones?
Well, Sir Bob, obviously the inquiry's findings are still confidential.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's safe to say, perhaps, that our committee's investigations have uncovered a significant and somewhat disturbing pattern of financial irregularities at a managerial and coaching level within your club.
I see.
I'm afraid it's probable that the club will be fined to a not inconsiderable degree.
But we're still paying off the fine for the crowd violence against Rovers. £50,000, which I still maintain was excessive, especially given that those bastards started it. And the police just stood around like 250 lemons and £93 a lemon.
Don't start all this again.
I'm sorry, Cliff, but you know how committed I am. At all 6 clubs that I've owned, I have been totally committed. And I would do anything to save City from another fine. I mean, financially speaking, this could push us over the edge of the cliff. Cliff?
Well, I suppose if City were to act preemptively to protect the club's image by distancing itself from the malpractice of a certain individual, then a club fine might be avoided. Think it over anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll think it over. Excuse me, do you have a fax machine?
Yeah. I will get a decent haircut.
See you, boss.
All right, Leo.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, cheers.
mate.
OK, Bigsy.
Yeah, fine, thanks. Ted?
Ready for the crunch game?
Oh, yeah. These are some Malaysian friends I met on holiday. In Penang. Oh, I told them to look me up if they came over.
Pleased to meet you. Enjoy your stay.
Oi! Skagbull! Shift your arse, you're late.
Let me drive.
No, you can't, you're banned, remember? That bloke's front garden leapt out in front of your car. And what is this?
Oh, sorry, Jake.
Jesus bloody H. Riley. What is the point of my negotiating you a mind-shagging deal with a sportswear firm if you turn up in opposition clobber? They'll just tear up your contract, spunkhead.
I forgot, OK?
Steve.
All right.
Do you think you can escape the drop, Steve?
Yes, we can. These last few games are all about pressure, but I've been there before.
Are you worried about the goals drying up?
Well, it's true that recently we've scored about as often as Cliff Richard, but we've got young Leo Walcott back from injury now. He's our top goal scorer, so we feel very confident. And even though it's been, let's be fair, it's been a difficult season with all these lurid tabloid allegations, all of them far too ludicrous to be given serious consideration. But yes, I still believe we can lift ourselves clear of danger, and it's all about instilling confidence, and that's my job as manager.
Ex-manager.
Sorry?
Ex-manager.
I know, Ron, I know.
But did you really have to get rid of it?
I had no choice, Ron. Cliff Mogadon features as evidence that Steve Denton was up to his bloody armpits in backhanders. These seats secure now.
Oh, yes. They won't be able to throw them this time. So, who's going to be the new manager?
Oh, God knows. So far, I've tried Big Jack, Big Ron, Big Mal, Graham Taylor.
Graham Taylor?
Beggars can't be choosers, Ron. But he won't come. No one wants a sodding job.
Yes. Trouble is, we're perceived as a crisis club.
Not perceived, Ron. We are a crisis club. We lost our last 12 games. We're rock bottom of the table, and we couldn't be more in debt if we had Nick Leeson as club treasurer.
Well, we've got to appoint someone. Maybe we should promote someone from within the club.
Oh, yes, like who, for instance? Our assistant manager is already named in the inquiry as a sticky fingers merchant. And our reserve team coach is in hospital with a brilliantly timed dose of meningitis. He's never been reliable.
What about Ted Whitehead? That bloke that looks after the apprentices part-time.
I suppose I could give Cluffy another ring, see if he makes any more sense this time. I don't know. 5 bloody points adrift with 3 to play. Oh, well, at least things can't get any worse.
Sir Bob Luckton.
Yes?
Sylvia Tench, Inland Revenue.
Come in, Sylvia. Come in, Mr. Todd, Mr. Heslop. Come in, make yourselves at home. I'm sorry it's a bit untidy. I'm afraid we had no idea you were coming.
Yes, I know. I see you've sacked your manager. So, presumably you're aware there's evidence he was receiving undeclared commission on the transfer of foreign players.
We're shocked, aren't we, Ron?
Yes, shocked.
We had no idea.
So, you weren't even the tiniest bit suspicious when he paid £1.25 million for a 31-year-old Estonian who never made it into your first team?
It's my policy as chairman never to interfere in playing matters.
We'll require access to all your financial records.
No problem, just ask. Anything you need to begin your investigation.
Oh, we've already begun. You've been under investigation for the last 5 months. Shall we order up some coffee?
Celery, celery. And if she don't come, I'll tickle her bum with a stick of celery. Do you think that would work? What? Well, you know, with the celery and that.
I've never needed it, because, like, mine usually come instantly, you know, just after I say hi.
All right, yeah, tossers. I've got 'em. Every coon, puff or Dubai we do over is going to get one of these.
Congratulations. You have just been visited by the...
Elite.
That's a kind of Durex, isn't it?
Oh, great. So we named ourselves after a Johnny.
Elite means the best.
It's bloody classy, eh? maybe we'll get our Stanley knives and sort of spell it out on their chests. What?
Well, I just don't think we should do anything that relies on spelling, that's all.
Mulholland cuts inside. The short ball to Phillips. He loses possession to Strong. And here comes City again with Ted Whitehead, this neat, skillful little inside right. On a nice ball from Whitehead. Out to Dean, to Hughes, to Roberts. That's a good cross, and Whitehead goal from Ted Whitehead. A marvellous header. And that surely will spell promotion for City. And some of the crowd are on the...
Hi!
What a great moment for City.
You heard about Steve Denton getting the boot?
Yes.
Hey, you know the best result we could get tonight? Find a darkie, beating the Pope.
Yeah. Ah.
Well, the best thing that could happen after that is if 6 darkies jumped, say, deep, and gave him an hiding, maybe even killed him, you know.
Why would that be a good thing, then?
Because their backlash would provoke an even bigger white backlash. Soon the whole community would be at each other's throats. The social fabric would collapse, and we'd take over. Of course, the really clever thing to do would be for us to kill Dave, and then blame it on the blacks.
Couldn't we just trash a curry house?
Which brings us to gate receipts. Now then, the home game v Spurs.
21,414.
A bit disappointing, wasn't it?
Well, there was Christmas shopping, and it was a bit nippy that day, so we only got...
29,608.
No, 21,414.
29,608. We counted them. Each of us took a section with one of these. It's a lot easier with all-seater stadiums.
Oh, no, you see, we have computerized turnstiles that record every supporter that comes in. But obviously they must have been on the blink. We'll get them seen to.
Well, that's the revenue the club owes for that game. And the other 16, when your turnstiles were on the blink. Well, I think that's enough for one day.
Perhaps you'd like to join us for the big game on Saturday as my guest.
I'm already coming. I'm a season ticket holder.
Really?
Yes, I pay a ludicrous amount of money to sit on a cheap bit of plastic just behind the director's box.
And your face rang a bell.
I've supported City since I was 6. A bit before your time, Sir Bob. Oh, is Leo Walcott fit for Saturday?
Yes.
Thank God for that. He's the only reliable finisher we've got. Well, I'll be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow, Sir Bob.
Excellent. I'm sure we can iron out any minor misunderstandings.
You know, I remember Lester Piggott saying exactly the same thing.
Good evening, welcome to Fantasy Football, and tonight we'll look at the crucial question.
4 more goldfish are missing from the pond. I think that heron's been at them again.
I don't know. What's happening to football, eh? Used to be the people's game. Now you can't move for bloody trendies. Middle-class wankers are writing novels on the emotional aspects of supporting Arsenal. Endless imaginary leagues of bloody pretend teams.
I'm not sure that plastic heron is any deterrent, really.
The money's poisoned it as well, of course. And all that comes with marketing, gimmicks, a flash away strips with sick-making patterns that look like pimps' pyjamas, green referees, those pitch-side hoardings that keep bloody revolving. Full-backs with number 38 on their backs. Shirts with names on. I mean, how the hell are you supposed to read canned chalices the speed he goes at?
Grub up.
And the wages the players are on. I never got paid that kind of money when I was playing.
No.
Look at that. They're asking Patsy Kensit for her opinions on football. Madness.
Because, you see, like, what we're doing This is how Hitler started, you know, small-time punch-ups in beer cellars and dance halls.
Can't imagine Hitler in a dance hall somehow. Do you think he did any bopping?
Nah, he'd have been one of them blokes standing against the wall all with a can of lager.
Yeah, he probably had to go home on his own if Goebbels pulled on it.
Oh, they weren't there to pull.
I hear you up.
Right. Flash car plus black bastard equals rumble.
Oh, God. It is. It's Leo Walcott.
No.
That's it. We've doomed City. We've crippled our best player.
Sorry, Leo, like, we thought you were black.
I'm black.
Yeah, but you're one of our blacks, aren't you? I mean, black, yeah. But not, black.
Yeah, sort of pale black. Oh, look at the state of him. What have we done? Oh, sorry about that, Leo. Sorry, Leo. Sorry about that, Leo.
Sorry, Leo.
All right, Biggsy.
All right.
Biggsy.
Yep.
Phone call from Singapore.
All right.
Morning, Ted.
Sir Bob, we don't usually see you down here.
No, well, I'm on important club business. I'll cut to the chase, Ted. I want you to take charge of the team. You're caretaker manager. Only temporary caretaker manager, mind, until we appoint a permanent caretaker manager. And I'm afraid that financial realities dictate that we can't increase your present salary.
Oh, that's all right. Can I ask why you've chosen me?
Because we're desperate. And because we know you're a loyal servant of the club.
You won't be sorry. I've got blue and yellow striped blood in these veins.
Really?
Came through the youth team, 139 first-team appearances, plus 13 as substitute, including friendlies. I can turn this club around, Sir Bob.
Just take it a day at a time, shall we? I'm afraid we have a slight selection problem for the match tomorrow. Unknown persons took Leo Walcott to the hospital last night with 4 broken ribs and a written apology. Oh, and if anyone asks, you have total control of team selection.
OK, great.
You don't, of course. It's just that I'm fed up with being portrayed as a megalomaniac. Right. Everything crosses my desk. You can have the ex-manager's sponsored car as soon as we've painted his name off. And if you don't get 3 points tomorrow, don't bother coming into work Monday. Any questions?
No.
Correct. Right. Let's go and meet the people who really matter. Good morning, gentlemen. Okay, this is to formally announce that our caretaker manager, as of today, will be our youth development officer, Ted Whitehall. Whitehead. Ted will be in charge of tomorrow's crucial game, so if you have any questions...
Sir Bob.
Frank?
What do you say to all those arguing that you were central to the sleaze factor now associated with this club and that you should have gone along with the manager?
Next question. For the last time, I deplore this farrago of slurs and smears directed against me. I love this club. I've poured huge amounts of money from my plastics empire into keeping City alive. If you cut me, I would bleed blue and yellow striped blood.
What about the allegations? Lovely quote,
Sir Bob.
Sir Bob.
You do know it's a criminal offence to deceive the Inland Revenue, don't you? Prison's not a very nice place. Especially for a good-looking man like yourself.
Come on, come on. Come on, you've had your fun and games. This press call is about Ted. So far away.
Can you keep City up, Ted?
Well, in 1969, my header got City promoted to this division, which I'm sure you remember, Frank, because, as I recall, you were the opposing goalie on that day. So, I've no intention of taking City back down again. From now on, we'll be concentrating on the 3 Ps. Professionalism, practice, and passion. Players will not be permitted to attend outside commercial activities, and agents will not be allowed at the training ground. I want everybody concentrating 135% on the goal of winning, because I want to bring the glory days back to this club.
OK, if you've got your programmes at the ready, I'll take you through.
All right, boys?
Heads. 30 quid to me. 50 quid. What colour tie are you wearing?
No, actually, your luxury box is in our big new stand opposite. This gentleman look after you. Dennis. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the game. Right, Jake?
No. Some of my lads want away.
Do they now? Catch you later, Martin.
They are not happy, especially since you appointed Forrest Gump as manager.
Yes, well, you tell your players to worry about more pressing matters, like that net thing strung between 2 pieces of wood that most of them seem to have developed a phobia about. All right?
They're not happy. They want away.
Ah, Sylvia, lovely to see you. May I introduce Jake Leach? Jake, this is Sylvia. She's a tax inspector. Well, I'll leave you two to talk, if you'll excuse me.
Hi.
Listen to me, listen to me.
Excuse me.
I'm telling you, it's an historical fact that the so-called Holocaust never actually happened.
Oh, I see. Did the war happen then, Les?
Of course the war happened.
Oh, all right. Just checking.
OK, chaps. How'd you get on yesterday with Princess Sylvia?
She's fining us for under-declaring the bar profits.
Oh, for Christ's sake, Ron.
I did my best. She wants to see the accounts for the new stand.
What?
Well, she said that...
You didn't give them to her, did you?
Well, no, you've never let me see them.
Oh, yeah.
Sir Bob.
What is it now, Jenny?
Slight problem with the handicap fans. I'm afraid their wheelchairs are obscuring some of the advertising from the TV cameras.
Move them, Ron.
On what grounds?
I don't know. Having bald ties, I don't care. Just bloody move them. Hey, all right, lads? Go on, cheer up, Kevin. All right. How's the knee, Tommy?
Be iffy, Sir Bob. I ain't so sure it'll last a full 90.
Once it's full of cortisone, you'll be running around like a 3-year-old. Right, well, this is the big one. So, lots of luck, lads. And give those bastards hell, eh? Yeah, oh, by the way, Dalglish is in.
Dalglish? He'd be on a shopping spree. He knows we're all but relegated.
He's there to watch me, he is.
Bollocks. He's after a fullback.
So that means me. Double bollocks. Why would Dalglish want a defender with crap knees and the ball skills of an hippo?
Oh, yeah, Roebuck. Well, yesterday, I just happened to have received a letter from Jack Charlton asking me to play for Ireland. We all got those. Loser.
Sorry about that. Now then, lads, I know you all know what has to be done. I'd just like to say a few words. Football can be a cruel mistress.
Hello, Maury.
God. Here comes little Miss Tight Ass.
All right, love?
Yes, thank you.
She wants me.
Now it's time to welcome the Warriors.
It's a black linesman.
Look, I appreciate that as trainee gorillas, you have to practice your grunting, but could you do it back at the zoo? Thanks.
Definitely fancies me.
Come on then, lads!
Come on, come on!
And City will be well pleased with that first half performance. Still 0-0, but they fought like tigers. I don't know what Ted Whitehead said to them before the game, but he obviously knows where to find those magic bottles of motivation. And it's...
We just need a goal. If we only had Leo Walcott, we...
There's some of their lot over there. Ready?
You are shit! 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 You are shit!
You sure that lyric isn't too tricky for you?
Shut it, bitch.
Excuse me, sweetheart.
You listen.
Why, leave it, Les.
No, I'm sick of it. I didn't buy a season ticket so I could listen to her snide remarks every bloody Saturday. I know what you are. A sodden liberal. Well, when our time comes, people like you will be strung up from lampposts.
You know, I wish Darwin could see you. You drive a coach and horses through his theory on evolution.
Go on, City.
Spectrum Sports watches for people who fill their time. 14 minutes to go, and it's still 0-0. But here comes City again with Roebuck and a push on Roebuck. And it's a free kick to City, about 25 yards out.
Oh, no.
Very promising position. City throwing a lot of men forward.
Quality ball, Wilson. Quality ball.
Bloody orgasm.
Gary Roebuck! Gatling gun! Gary who puts City in front with 13 minutes to go. 13 minutes, and this is going to be a white knuckle ride.
No.
Defender easily robs him of the ball. Gives it away immediately.
Well, I agree. No. First I knew he'd taken the job was when I saw it on the telly. Oh, we just stopped communicating. We haven't been man and wife, in that sense, since the night he got 3 numbers in the lottery.
And there's the whistle! City have done
I know.
it!
Ted, many congratulations.
Bloody brilliant, eh?
After a dreadful run, ironically, you managed to get a terrifically committed performance out of them.
Well, thanks, yes. I asked for the good old-fashioned virtues of hard work and plenty of art, and that's what they responded to.
Do you feel City can escape the drop?
Oh, it's still early doors, John.
A great goal from Gary Roebuck, but ironically, he was booked for celebrating the goal with hip movements, which I understand the referee regarded as pornographic.
It just looked like high spirits to me, John.
Bloody
Hey, brilliant, lads, bloody brilliant.
Hey, well done, Gary. You had a stormer today, son. I've never seen you work so hard. What's the hurry?
I want to catch Kenny in the bar.
Kenny?
Dalgleish. You said he was watching.
Did I?
You bastard.
Gary, steady. That's where my header went in. 26 years ago. That corner there. Frank Jardine just got his fingertips to it. Those was all terracing behind the goal then. I hate all-seated stadiums. Boxy, ugly things. Make every ground look like QPR.
I have a dream, Ted. To make this club really big. Do you know why this club has to be big?
For the fans?
Sweet. No, this club has to be big because soon that's the only kind of club there's going to be. No more piddling little Ipswiches and Coventrys, just a juicy great Euro League of big clubs. I want us to be so big that we make AC Milan look like Accrington Stanley. But to do that, we have to avoid the drop, because the drop spells death. Do you understand, Ted?
Don't worry, Sir Bob. Leave it with me. City! City! Glenda, you are a sexy vixen.
Ah, even better one here. In appointing a man of old-fashioned integrity like Ted Whitehead, City Chairman Sir Bob Lupton has struck an important blow in the fight against sleaze in football.
Oh, here. Ted Whitehead has revived the traditional values of decency and hard work.
Brilliant. Well. Ah, Sylvia, welcome. Great result for a Saturday.
Wasn't it just? Shall we get on?
Come on then, Biggsy. What not stopping?
4-1.
Who's that, Dino?
FA drug testing unit.
Right. Well, we've nothing to worry about, have we, lads? Now then, another biggie on Wednesday. And according to the Radio Times, there'll be highlights of the match on Sports Night with expert analysis from Alan Hansen. Now, that bugger's been tipping us to relegation all season. So let's rub his big Scots nose in it, eh?
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
So, Alan, after the high of that important win at the weekend, things turn a little sour for Ted Whitehead, and City are crushed 7-0.
Yeah, they were lucky to get nil, weren't they, really? I mean, it was a dreadful performance.
Yep, and sadly, of course, the headlines tomorrow will revolve around one incident.
Right, and we can see it now. 3 minutes into the game, they are Roebuck sent off for a dreadful tackle. Okay, so he's frustrated, but there's really no excuse for what happened next. He flakes, he loses his composure, and bang, down goes the Penguin.
Yep, impossible to understand why he did it, really, especially given that it's his own team's mascot.
I think it just got on his nerves.
Well, anyway, our information is that Gary Roebuck will be spending the night in custody awaiting charges. And just about the last thing that the game of football needs right now, of course. But here's what City Chairman Sir Bob Luckton and manager Ted Whitehead have to say about it.
Well, unfortunately, I'm unable to comment, as I did not have a clear view of the incident in question. And neither did Ted, did you, Ted?
We're suspending Roebuck for the rest of the season.
Yes, well, obviously that is one possible course of action. But we'll need to take legal advice.
In fact, as far as I'm concerned, Roebuck has played his last game in City colours.
Thanks to your big gob, we have denied ourselves the services of our last remaining talented player.
But what he did was inexcusable.
Look, talented people are different. Everyone knows that. They're mercurial, do stupid things like Cantona and Van Gogh and Shirley Bassey. But you make allowances.
No, we can't have Roebuck setting a bad example and corrupting the kids.
Have you seen the kids round here? In 1 month, I've had 8 hubcaps nicked off that Bentleigh, 2 while waiting at traffic lights. Unfortunately, the press have been writing you up as this beacon of decency. Otherwise, I'd tear up your contract, if you had one.
Sir Bob?
Whoever it is, just tell him to piss off.
It's the FA.
Well, thank you for attending at such short notice, gentlemen.
Look, if it's about this Roebuck business...
No, it's not, actually. This meeting concerns the results of random drug tests carried out at your training ground last week. I'm sorry to have to inform you that one of your players tested positive for marijuana.
Oh, well, marijuana.
Cocaine, amyl nitrate, heroin, LSD, and a compound which as yet our chemists have been unable to identify. 4 other players also tested positive for banned substances, and your reserve goalie is taking anabolic steroids. Were you aware you had a drugs problem at your club?
Well, from the way they've been playing, I'd assumed they were all addicted to Valium.
This is no joking matter. All these players are suspended pending medical reports.
Right.
But may we say in passing that the FA applauds your decisive action over the Gary Roebuck incident?
Well, sometimes you just have to take a moral stand.
Come here, you white bastard!
Morning, boss. Morning. Morning, boss. Hello, lad.
Now, just smile a bit more. This won't take a moped. It's the new strip for next season. Smart, isn't it? I like the sort of zigzaggy effect. What I think's really great is that it doesn't look like a football shirt. It's a fashion item in its own right. To make it look nice and glamorous, if I can see you smiling, look like you're having fun, that's right. You just take it a little bit lower. Right, girls,
Thank you.
That's lovely. He's the sponsor's managing director's brother. Asked if he could train with the players.
I'll tell you what. Why doesn't he play up front for us on Saturday?
This has turned out perfect, Deef. A white boy beaten up by dozens of packies. There'd be a bloody uprising, mate. Well done.
Cheers.
You've had all the press boys round wanting interviews, I suppose?
No.
The TV people?
No, no one.
They'll come. You'll see. There'll be a huge wave of outrage at what they've done to you.
Yeah, well, my Auntie Pat's quite annoyed about it.
My clients are all, like, emotionally well stomped by this brutal decision from the FA. They deny taking drugs and believe that the positive test results may have been caused by a cold remedy that they were taking. Furthermore, they will be looking for avenues to...
You wanted to see me, Sylvia?
Yes.
It won't take too long, will it? Only I'm in the middle of ringing around the clubs to tell them that Gary Roebuck is available for transfer. He scored 5 goals this season, so we should get at least 3 million for him.
Thanks for the accounts relating to the new stand.
I hope they were helpful.
Oh, yes, they were very interesting. I see the contractors you hired used to employ Mark Thatcher as a consultant.
Well, didn't everybody?
You know, it's funny. When you've been doing this job for a while, sometimes when you look at a set of figures, you hear little voices trying to tell you things.
You want to be careful. They lock up people who hear voices.
Oh, I don't think I'm the one who has to worry about being locked up. Now then, this stand. Perhaps you could talk me through these figures.
They were quick, them packies, weren't they?
Hiya, Deef. How you doing?
He's doing brilliant. I've been telling him how he's the martyr that started our rise to power.
Yeah, right.
I'm telling you, it's about to start. And I'm ready.
Have you heard about City? Half the team's suspended.
Oh, bloody am.
We're doomed now, you know. They'll have to send the kids in on Saturday.
Are you listening to me?
Well, do we have a choice?
Well, what does that mean?
100% mouth.
Am I?
Bloody hell.
You were saying? About me being 100% mouth.
It was a joke, mate. Where'd you get it?
My old man brought it back from Suez.
All right.
What's the food like?
What's the team for Saturday then, boss? God knows. Oh, Bigsy. What are they doing to our game? Nobody cares anymore. What do you have a few more dedicated pros like you, eh?
David Anthony Biggs.
I know. Well, I know. I mean, he thought the world of Bigsy. Yes, well, he was a bit upset when he got home, but he seems to have got over it now. I know. What happened about your dog's hip? So she had it looked at?
Bigsy. Match fixing. Bigsy, I can't believe it. Why did he do it?
Off the record. Mega big debts, gambling. Very shag nasty situation.
Lots of players love to gamble.
Yeah, but not all of them bet 100 quid a time and who can piss iced up the urinal. Anyway, Bigsy wasn't why he wanted to see me.
No. It's this woman from the Inland Revenue, Sylvia Tench. Very bright, very determined. She quickly found the skeletons in our cupboards. But now she's on the verge of discovering the mass grave. You know that grant we got to build our spanking new £3 million stand?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't cost $3 million. I came to an arrangement. In real terms, it was nearer $2 million.
And you split the difference with the builders? Nice scam.
And she's onto it, I can tell.
So? Just bribe her?
No, she's not like all the others. She's a strange woman. She wants to see the contractor's financial records, but they were destroyed in a fire.
When was this?
About now.
Look, I fail to see what all this has got to do with me.
Well, just where do you think it's all... Just where do you think it's all been coming from, Jake? Eh? All the money for your clients' little perks? All those quiet loans that they were never asked to pay back? The cars, the deposits on houses? All those bonuses that got paid into Jersey bank accounts?
Nobody forced you to pay them.
Oh, no, we could have declined and the players would have gone elsewhere and we'd have finished up with an even crappier squad than we got now.
Look, that's not my problem. You want to...
Let's not argue about it now. We'll have plenty of time for that when we're sharing a cell.
So what should we do about it?
Oh, I'm not suggesting we do anything. I just thought it was only fair to keep you informed.
And the ref said, I'm booking you for a late tackle. And old Nobby said...
I got there as soon as I could, yeah. Look, Ted, what I need is your reaction to Roebuck, the drug situation, Bigsy, etc. You know the sort of thing.
I don't know what to say. It's just dreadful.
Look, you don't mind if I tape this, do you?
I mean, nobody got done for match fixing in our day, did they? Well, apart from Tony Kay and Bronco Lane and Peter Swan. But they were all isolated cases.
Right, there we go. Let's start with the Gary Roebuck situation. What I'm after is the man behind the football.
Right, my show. Yeah. While I'm there, I'm going to tug the barmaid.
Not drinking with your friends?
Someone like me can't afford friends. Friends sap the will.
How very true. You know, my job is based on spotting talent. I saw you at the game the other day. That man, I said to myself, is a born leader, a man of action. Drink?
I don't touch alcohol. Impurities cloud the senses.
Absolutely.
I'll have an appetizer.
2 appetizers, please. OK, last question. What team are you going to put out tomorrow?
Well, Leo Walcott will be playing with his bad ribs, and the rest of the team will be virtually all youngsters.
OK, Ted, that's fine. I better get this back. Good luck tomorrow. I think you're going to need it.
Yeah. Do you know, Frank, that header I put past you, the one that clinched promotion, that was the only time I ever scored with me head. Because I lacked height, I suppose.
Yeah, that and ability. I'll see you, mate. You take care, eh?
All right. Cheers.
Ta-da.
What you doing, lads?
I'm playing Bentleigh goalie.
Worrying about the match?
Yes.
Well, perhaps if you, you know, relieve the tension.
Not now, Rob, thanks. Groin strain.
They must get 3 points if they are to avoid the yawning abyss of relegation.
Jake, just a couple of words, OK?
Well, obviously, Frank, my client utterly refutes these charges of match rigging which have been laid against him. Anybody who knows Bigsy will tell you he never gives any less than 100%, and we are gobwiped by the way in which he's being prejudged by an exploitative media circus.
Cheers.
Incidentally, if you want Biggs' exclusive, the bidding starts at 100 grand. All right, Sir Bob.
All right, Jake. Frank.
Don't look so worried. Sure, by tea time, all our problems will be over.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm just off to the game now. I'm running a bit late. Oh, I can't say I'm looking forward to it. No, I couldn't sleep a wink last night. Yeah. Oh, well. Fingers crossed, eh, Dad? Bye.
I wish Darwin could see this and all. Now, drive.
What are you doing here?
Can I sit on the bench with you, Ted? Please, just to cheer the lads on. I'll be okay, I promise. I've been to anger counselling.
All right. But keep it shut.
Thanks, Ted.
Out! I said out! Right. Now, I know how you're feeling, like you want to throw up, if you haven't already done it. Your palms are all sweaty, your legs are shaking, it's dreadful. But there are 30,000 people out there, and the funny thing is, right now, they all want to be you. Every single one of them would trade their humdrum lives for the chance that you have to be a hero, to experience glory. All right, Dino, don't worry about it.
Who's paying you? You get life for murder, you know.
It isn't murder. It's a political act. Something to help bring about the inevitable.
Where are we headed?
I'll tell you where you're headed. Fame. You're gonna be the victim of a brutal racial culling. You'll probably be first item on News at 10, you know. The one Trevor McDonald uses his serious voice for. Not long till kick-off. First home game I've missed in 8 years.
City face a date with destiny. A crucial...
Come on, you City.
Big crunch.
Yes. Well, nothing more to say, really. So, good luck. And God bless. Come on, then. Oh, I won't be a sec, Gary. Good luck, Ralph. Cheers.
Yes?
Nothing. Can I have a word, Chairman? A word in private. Now.
Well, come on, Ted. What is it, for God's sake? It's 5 minutes to kick off.
I've just met the ref. You know, the rowing enthusiast.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Do you know the rules of football? Do you? Well, Rule 3A states that the two teams shall both consist of 11 players. 11 against 11, not 11 against 12, including the ref, or 13 if you count the chairman. I can't live with this. I'm blowing the whistle.
Fine, you do that. The FA will relegate us for sure. Down one division, maybe...
Then so be it.
So be it. Do you know the size of our overdraft? Well, do you? No, because I've kept it quiet. When I think of the sacrifices I've made for this club, and I tell you, with me in prison, no mug is going to come in. Oh, no. City will go bankrupt. So go ahead. You blow your whistle. You'll be signing this club's death warrant. Is that what you want?
And time to welcome the Warriors. Warriors, my ass.
Blows his whistle. Let battle commence in this, the most important 90 minutes in City's history.
This'll do.
So, have you killed anyone before then?
Only in the head. But every revolutionary has to be prepared to commit necessary acts. See, what they're gonna find is a pretty white girl with 6 bullets in her. But the murderers are gonna be careless. They're gonna leave this Rasta hat behind. And this leaflet. Supporting Black Fist, a hitherto unknown militant grouping. Get out. Now, walk. Stop! Out here, I think.
Please!
Shut it!
Penalty to City! A penalty to City!
Yes! Tell you, that didn't look much of a penalty to me. Their bloke played the ball.
Ref calls it the way he sees it.
Bloody hell, he could have just booped him.
Dissent can't be tolerated, Ron.
He's their best player and all.
Ball of the spot. Back a few paces, the crowd very quiet now.
Come on.
I can't bet to Luke. I bet the bloody goalie saves it.
No. Something tells me the goalie won't save it.
You great wanker, Walcott! We should have broken your bloody legs instead!
Why do we support them, eh? Eh? Bunch of shite. Always let you down, don't they? Now, let's start again. Wonder if I should sprinkle some ganja in the car.
You're mad.
They said Hitler was mad. You're gonna usher in a new world, girl. A world where people like me matter.
It's another penalty to City. Handball, says the ref. City's second penalty.
Bloody hell, we're getting all the breaks today. That was never handball, you know.
It all evens itself out across the season.
Bad losers.
There goes another one.
Tension's too much, can't watch.
And it's young Dean West to take it. Can City grab this life fight?
We'll score this time. For definite. I can feel it.
Retake it. Encroachment. Retake it.
Take your time, relax, head over the ball. Okay.
This game is...
Sorry, Ted, but there are always managerial casualties in the fight against relegation.
Don't you want to beg for mercy?
I'm resigned to my fate. My death's going to usher in a new world. You're going to pump 6 bullets into me.
That's right.
Just like you put in that radio.
We missed the penalty twice.
Don't worry, there'll be others. Other goal opportunities.
Cheer up. You're going to be on the news. Not the first item, mind. Somewhere between the squirrel who likes water skiing and Trevor McDonald saying goodnight. Now. Walk.
City have missed chance after chance after chance.
Dog meat. I'll sell a lot of them for dog meat.
Ref's booking their goalie for time wasting.
Look, I can't give any more penalties. It'll be a bloody riot. Just fucking let one in, can't you?
I'll let one in as soon as I bloody get one on target.
Oh, we can't wait that long. Just do something.
For Christ's sake, all they have to do is get one decent shot on goal.
Just not our day. It's the tension. Our boys have gone to pieces. Got to feel sorry for them, really.
Ron?
Yes?
You're fine.
It's a corner to City. Looked like it came off a City player, but City won't be complaining about that.
Come on, you two.
And it's Murray to take the corner. Wait, the linesman has his flag up. The Rovers goalie is charging across the linesman. No prizes for guessing what he's saying.
Put that flag down or I'll shove it up your arse.
I thought you were pushed.
What are you talking about?
The goal stands, dickhead.
And how do you measure the value of a goal? If that one keeps City up, it will be worth millions and the ref has blown for the end of the game!
He's blown up 5 minutes early.
Hey?
The ref's blown up 5 minutes early.
I've done it. We've done it. Survival. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well done.
Yeah, great result.
I'd say so.
And how did they find you again?
From the blood. Seeping out under the door of the boot cupboard.
Where he'd...
Hidden me, yes. Looks like City have finished then.
Yeah. Relegation for match fixing. And certain insolvency, I reckon.
No offers of a rescue package.
Are you kidding?
It's funny, isn't it? How you imagine your club will be there forever. Still, I had the most wonderful moment of my life in that stadium. When I put that header past you. When things were different. I can still see it flashing past your left hand. Great day.
Yeah, for me as well.
Eh?
Well, I got £2 grand for letting that one in. Now, what I want is your account of the final days. Maybe serialise it over a week, you know, the club that died of shame, that sort of thing. What do you think, eh? I reckon I could get £1 grand a day for that. Yeah, I could twist it around my little finger there. That'll be £5 grand a week,
There's a football fella, you all know his name, and the papers tell us he's in the Hall of Fame. Wherever he goes, he'll be all the rage, 'cause he's the new sensation of the age. Dressed in red, white and blue, he's World Cup Willie, we all love him too. World Cup Willie, he's tough as a lion and never will give up. That's why Willie is favourite for the cup. Willie, Willie.
11 men against 11. Some great lines, some good sight gags, and some funny people. And I love those neo-Nazis, but I can't give them names because, like you, all I've got is the cast list at the end, and that's in order of appearance and a bit hard to deal with. The tax department's blonde, by the way, was Anastasia Hiller. Next week, the bells of Notre Dame ring out for an Easter special. A strange and twisted figure haunts the secret corridors and the winding stairways to the bells of Notre Dame, and it's great Charles Lawton in the classic 1939 version, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Same channel, same time, next Wednesday night. See you then.
Coming up next on ABC, Australia Television News.
Following Parliament question time from the House of Representatives, a feisty London entertainer sets out to fool her relatives by inventing a double life in the country. Cicely Courtnidge stars in the musical comedy Everybody Dance, before lifelong learning begins at 3 o'clock this morning with a look at trading blocks on the global economy.
It's your ABC.
Tonight, rival factions clash as Cambodia's Prince Norodom Ranariddh talks up his election prospects. Thousands of Cambodian refugees flee as government troops close in on the Khmer Rouge. And the UN praises China's efforts in improving human rights. Good evening, Rosemary Church with Australia Television News. Supporters of Cambodia's Prince Norodom Ranariddh and his rival Hun Sen have clashed in Phnom Penh, marking the sharpest confrontation since Ranariddh returned this week. Earlier, Ranariddh held his first political rally since returning from exile. To the cheers of emotional supporters, he effectively launched his Royalist Party's campaign for the July elections.
He returned a hero to the Royalist Party headquarters once trashed in the coup. With his first political rally, Prince Ranariddh re-established the party and launched the campaign to regain power. 2,000 supporters cheering his new commitment to lead the party to victory.
Hun Sen still really alive if there is the split among the leadership, but the base itself still very strong.
But careful negotiations lie ahead. The Prince will meet his bitter rival, second Prime Minister Hun Sen, in early May. Talks that will set the ground rules for their next electoral showdown in July. Holding court in a 4-star hotel, Prince Ranariddh has been rebuilding contacts. But fearing a violent campaign, he wants Hun Sen to know he has the world's backing to pull out.
We have signed already an agreement saying this: if we will assess and concerted assessment that it would not be really fair election, the Democrats will not take part.
On the street outside, evidence of that tension already boiling over. Police breaking up a fight between pro and anti-Ranariddh protesters. Other issues remain. Ranariddh's Royalist generals still languish on the border without royal pardons. They're more vulnerable than ever now their Khmer Rouge allies are defecting. This strategic border high point of Prevahir, the latest government trophy. But it's yet to be seen if this is the final fall of the last hardliners at Anglong Veng, the last refuge of Pol Pot. Back in Phnom Penh, Prince Ranariddh prepares for his own political battle. And while he may be safe, it's less certain for his officials who'll have to take risks for the party to win.
While the reception here among supporters has been warm, this is just the start of Prince Ranariddh's political campaign, one that he warns could become violent and bloody.
Thousands of Cambodian refugees are massing on the Thai border as government forces move in to clear the remaining Khmer Rouge strongholds. The refugees are fleeing fighting around the town of An Long Veng, one of the few remaining Khmer Rouge strongholds in the northwest of the country. Thailand is now considering whether it will give the refugees sanctuary inside its borders. Women, children, old people and a handful of crippled soldiers make up one group of just over 200 people who have arrived at a refugee camp on the Thai-Cambodian border. At least one group has been ferried into Thailand after they were given permission to cross the border. It's estimated another 10,000 refugees are moving towards the border. The mass exodus is due to fierce fighting as government troops edge their way into the last of the Khmer Rouge-controlled areas in the northwest of Cambodia at An Long Veng. Most who have fled the fighting are sleeping out in the open and their water supply is running out.
Well, there were a lot of us who came here
Our soldiers are still fighting against the enemy on the front line. Villages are being left behind.
It's understood the government troops now control the town, although skirmishes are still occurring on its northern outskirts. Reports also indicate that Khmer Rouge military chief Tar Mok is among those moving towards the border, while former strongman Pol Pot has been taken from his jungle home where he's been under house arrest.
An Australian aid worker and his Thai assistant have been freed by Burmese guerrillas who abducted them last week. The two were taken by armed DKBA guerrillas aligned to Burma's military government. A spokesman for the Australian government says the two were handed over to Thai authorities earlier today and are in good health. China's new Premier Zhu Rongji has arrived in Britain for the Asia-Europe Summit next week, where world leaders will discuss the Asian financial crisis. Zhu's early arrival in London is being seen as a clear sign of improving Sino-British relations. Those relations soured during the lead-up to the handover of Hong Kong last year.
The arrival of new Chinese Premier Zhu Rongji in Britain heralds an important turning point in Sino-British relations. It's been 13 years since a Chinese premier set foot in Britain on official business. And his presence here has attracted great interest both internationally and at home in China. Relations with Britain were never so warm before the handover of Hong Kong to Communist China last year. By making Britain the first stop on this current overseas journey, Premier Zhu is sending a signal that Beijing wants to forget the squabbles over Britain's former colony. And Zhu was afforded a royal welcome to the country in his first meeting, held at Queen Elizabeth's favourite weekend residence, Windsor Castle. The unusual step of the Chinese entourage being welcomed by the monarch indicates how important Zhu's visit is seen by the British. The visiting Chinese premier was warmly greeted by the Queen and her husband, Prince Philip. They held private talks before posing for the cameras. Zhu will meet European and Asian leaders for a summit that is expected to highlight Beijing's role in helping to solve Asia's financial woes.
Very nice to see you.
He then meets British Prime Minister Tony Blair for serious talks on the seemingly newfound tolerance between the two countries.
The United Nations Secretary-General Kofi Annan has welcomed China's decision to invite Human Rights Commissioner Mary Robinson to visit Beijing. The move comes on top of China's promise to sign the UN Covenant on Civil and Political Rights.
The Chinese Vice Premier Chan Chi-chun met Kofi Annan as he arrived in Beijing for the lightning visit. It's part of a tour by the Secretary-General to Security Council member countries to shore up support for the peace deal Annan brokered to end the Gulf crisis. Annan emerged from talks with his host, thanking China for its support of the deal that averted planned military action against Iraq. The discussions also produced some significant Chinese movement on the human rights front.
We have made the decision to sign the agreement on human versus government rights, and we are willing to live by those rules. People will know when we sign it.
But exactly when the UN Covenant on Civil and Political Rights will be signed by the Chinese isn't yet clear. China has also given the go-ahead for a visit by UN Commissioner for Human Rights, Mary Robinson.
The fact that they have announced that they're going to sign the convention is an indication that they have lived up to the discussions and the expectations that I left Beijing with in May. I'm also particularly encouraged that they have invited Mrs. Mary Robinson to visit. Both Mrs. Robinson and myself are very pleased with this development, and we look forward to working with China as we work with other governments on human rights issues. Thank you.
In confirming the September visit from Geneva, Robinson praised China for its progress on human rights. She hopes to visit Tibet during the trip and has singled out workers' rights, rural poverty and women's groups as 3 areas of interest.
A US Senate subcommittee has been told there may be a Labour camp on an American-controlled island in the Pacific Ocean. Chinese and Korean nationals have reportedly been shipped into Saipan as cheap labour to make clothes for well-known American companies such as Gap and Ralph Lauren. Legal loopholes allow the island's administrators to import foreign workers who are forced to work in poor conditions for low wages.
Tens of thousands of contract workers are brought to this American island territory each year, most young women from China, who have been promised by recruiters they are going to good jobs in America. Instead, many find themselves kept behind barbed wire in rat-infested labor compounds and put to work in huge Chinese and Korean-owned garment factories, often under sweatshop conditions, making clothes for the American market, which can legally be labeled as made in the USA.
That's not American.
It's all possible because Saipan is allowed to set its own immigration policy, which Clinton administration officials told Congress today is out of control and must be changed.
It has created a plantation economy dependent upon the massive importation on a continuing basis of low-paid, vulnerable, short-term, indentured workers.
Officials today also confirmed what an ABC News 2020 investigation had found, that pregnant garment workers at some Saipan factories are forced to have abortions to keep their jobs.
When I told them I was pregnant, they told me to have abortion.
With 11,000 Chinese workers here, I have never seen a Chinese garment factory worker have a baby.
Governor Pedro Tenorio said today he knows there are problems, but is still opposed to any change in the law.
I am deeply concerned that a federal takeover will have a disastrous effect in our economy.
Saipan has spent millions on Washington lobbyists and given top Republicans in Congress free trips to the beautiful Pacific Island, including one over Christmas for House Majority Whip Tom DeLay.
You represent everything that is good about what we're trying to do in America.
And DeLay and other Republicans have vowed to fight to keep the laws the way they are on Saipan.
The Japanese stock market has reacted nervously to the introduction of the government's new strategy to overhaul the economy. The Big Bang reform package will deregulate parts of the finance sector, including an easing of foreign exchange rules. After its unveiling by the government today, share prices fell 2%, while the yen also lost value. And market analysts believe the strategy may be painful for the shaky Japanese economy.
The bottom line is that the Japanese government has introduced this legislation at a particularly difficult time for the real economy. It's not going to be easy, and I think that the fallout in terms of further failures of financial institutions, job layoffs, and general uncertainty in this economy will be considerable for some time.
The government plans to further deregulate the economy in the next 3 years. As we just heard, Japan's Nikkei lost nearly 2%, or 285 points. Also down Hong Kong stocks, the Hang Seng shedding 187 points due to a lack of fresh leads to stimulate buying interest. Singapore followed the downward trend, the SDI losing 29 points, or nearly 2%. Australia's All Ordinaries Index moved in the other direction, adding nearly 9 points in mixed trade due to continued disinterest from offshore investors. The Aussie dollar continued its slide against the greenback. It's currently sitting on 66.2 US cents, while Hong Kong gold and Australian bullion ended the day firmer. Now let's check the weather outlook for Thursday. And Hong Kong showers and 22 for a top, showers 2 in Hanoi and Taipei, sunny and 11 for Shanghai, Tokyo rain and cold and cloudy in Seoul and Beijing. Hot and hazy conditions for New Delhi and Rangoon, Colombo showers, Rangoon fine and cloudy for the remainder. Rain heading for Jakarta, 32 the maximum, showers and 33 in Singapore. Showers too for the islands, Kuala Lumpur stormy and 36 and fine across the rest of the region. Melbourne showers and 20 degrees, showers too for Brisbane and 27. Storms forecast for Norfolk Island, a top of 26 expected and fine conditions in the remaining centres. And finally tonight, an orphaned grey whale rescued when it beached more than a year ago has been returned to the ocean. The 9-ton whale, named JJ by her rescuers, was given a celebrity send-off before being released. Marine biologists hope JJ will join migrating whales of the same species.
The orphaned grey whale was hoisted from a holding pool at SeaWorld using a 30-foot nylon stretcher and put into a specially designed container on a trailer truck. From there, JJ got a police escort as she was carefully shuttled to the naval station where a U.S. Coast Guard vessel was waiting. Spectators watched as a restless JJ wiggled when the crane lifted her and placed her on heavy foam pads. Moments later, she was aboard the conifer and headed out to sea, where biologists hope she'll join other whale pods.
Everything was just smooth as silk from when we lowered the water in our pool at 4 this morning to the conifer steaming out of San Diego Harbor. It went very well.
The dying baby whale was rescued last year after she washed ashore near Venice Beach. The newborn was trucked to SeaWorld and was nursed back to health. Just as she grew in size, so did her popularity.
Hopefully he makes it out there. He learned, he was little, so he's bigger now. He'll probably learn how to live out there.
Despite her release today, SeaWorld's relationship with JJ isn't over yet. Biologists have attached a device to the calf, which will allow them to keep track of her location for the next 18 months. Biologists say that the tracking device will be used only for research, and they vow not to interfere as the calf begins her new life out at sea.
And that's the news from Australia Television for the moment. I'm Rosemary Church. Thanks for your company. Good night.
Good morning. Welcome to Parliament House. Here is a recording of yesterday's question time in the House of Representatives.
Are there any questions? The Leader of the Opposition.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, when you resigned as Director of the Menzies Research Company on 15 October 1996, was it a coincidence?
What is a company?
Was it a coincidence that it was just 2 days after the resignation of Senator Short for a breach of your code of conduct, 1 day after John Moore's Bligh Ventures shareholding was exposed, and the same day Senator Gibson resigned for breaching the code? Prime Minister, how can you expect us to believe that in the middle of a crisis centring on declarations of pecuniary interest, it was a mere coincidence that you resigned a company directorship and didn't tell anyone? Aren't you guilty of a deliberate cover-up?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the answer to the question is no.
The Honourable Member for Petrie.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, can
The Honourable Member Denison is to remember he's already under warning. The Honourable Member for Petrie.
Thank you again, Mr Speaker. Can the Prime Minister inform the House of what actions the government has done to improve the living standards of Australian families?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I know that there are many members on my side of the House who are interested in benefits for the ordinary Australian people. And I take the opportunity at this question time, as I will at future question times, of reminding the Australian public of the many things that we have done. Take, for example, a family earning $40,000 a year with one breadwinner and 2 children, one of which is under the age of 5. The following facts in relation to the member's question are relevant. That particular family is eligible for the government's family tax initiative, which reduces the tax by $200 a child and by a further $500 a child if that child is under the age of 5 years. And through that alone, the annual benefit is $900. And that measure was promised by the coalition in the last election campaign, and it was delivered in time, on full and without qualification by the Treasurer with effect from the beginning of 1997. And if the family has private health and ancillary insurance, they would be eligible for the maximum private health insurance rebate of $450 a year. A rebate, incidentally, that the member for Dobell will abolish the day he would become Health Minister in any future Labor government. From 1998-1999, the working partner may receive the savings rebate, and once it takes full effect, this rebate will be worth a maximum of $450. The working partner might also receive the rebate for spouse superannuation contributions up to a maximum of $540. Moreover, if the family, like many Australian families, has a mortgage of $100,000, the reductions in interest rates the government has brought about translate into an annual interest saving of no less than $3,800 a year. So if you add all of those together, you would get a grand total of $6,140. Mr. Speaker, they are but some of the examples of the benefit that have been brought to Australian families by my government, and the continuation of the policies that we have followed will guarantee that there are further benefits for wider sections of the Australian community under my administration.
When the House has come to order, can I have some silence, please? The Honourable Member for Hotham.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, you claim not to have declared your directorship because you thought it a trivial matter. If directorship of a company in receipt of $400,000 of taxpayers' money and significant tax concessions is too trivial to declare, wasn't honorary membership of the International Fellowship of Cricket-Loving Rotarians? And receipt of, and I quote from you, various books, key rings and biros which are either in a Canberra office or in the library at the Lodge. Isn't that even more trivial? Prime Minister, do you really expect us to believe that a man who declares key rings and biros simply forgot to declare both his directorship and resignation from a public company which benefited directly from decisions that he took in its favour?
When the members of the opposition resume their silence, I'll call the Prime Minister.
I do regard
members
this
of the
matter
opposition
as
resume their silence
being trivial.
before I call you, Prime Minister.
And I do regard this matter as being trivial, but given the amount of time and energy that the Honourable Member for Hotham and others in the Labor Party with varying degrees of intensity and confected outrage have put into it, let me take the Honourable Gentleman through. The circumstances. The first and most important point to make, Mr. Speaker, is that at no stage did I have any personal pecuniary interest in this company. That's the first point to make. The second point I ought to make is, Mr. Speaker, is that I held the position...
You've asked the question, please listen to it.
I held the position by virtue of the fact that I was leader of the Federal Parliamentary Liberal Party. Hardly a closely held secret. I mean, there's a great revelation. The Labor Party have discovered I've got a closet association with the Liberal Party of Australia. I mean, it's an extraordinary... I mean, it's an amazing thing. They've really... What a shock. I am undone. I'm exposed. I'm the leader of the Federal Parliamentary Liberal Party, Mr. Speaker, but even more importantly, Mr. Speaker, a lot of reference has been made to the fact that this was a public company.
The Honourable Member Hunter remains silent.
The Leader of the Opposition and Mr. Oakes on his program last night and his bulletin column this morning, and others have made great play upon the fact that this is a public company. Now, let me point out to the House, Mr. Speaker, that the words in the Ministerial Code, and this is the basis of my rejection of any claim that there is a conflict with the code. The words public company are not defined in the code as carrying the meaning given to that expression under the Corporations Act. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, if you go to the concise Australian Oxford Dictionary, you find that a public company, and I repeat this for the benefit of all of those who have sought to claim that I was in conflict with the code, that a public company is defined in the Oxford Dictionary as a company that sells shares to all buyers on the open market. Now let me repeat that, sells shares to all buyers on the open market. The reality in relation to the Menzies Research Centre is that it has no shareholders. So if it doesn't have any shareholders, it's a bit hard to sell any of them, isn't it? And Mr. Speaker, let me quote from the letter, written to me to the Federal Director of the Liberal Party, dated, and I'll be very happy to table it, dated the 31st of March 1998, Mr. Speaker, and it spoke of the Menzies Research Centre, and it's called the Menzies Research Centre, not the name given to it by the Honourable Member for Hotham. And Freehill, Hollingdale and Page had this to say: a company limited by guarantee has no shareholders. Such companies are limited companies because a member's liability to contribute to the company is limited to the amount of the guarantee. In the case of the MRC, the amount was $10. Such a company has no issued shares, but has administrative advantages such as simplifying procedures for admission to membership. Mr Speaker, he goes on to say, while technically a public company, for the reasons described above, a company limited by guarantee can be distinguished from a public company which consists of shareholders whose shares are traded on the stock exchange and which has as its primary function a commercial and trading purpose. He goes on to say this: at the time of the MRC's creation, a number of individuals closely associated with the Liberal Party of Australia became directors. And I have to confess that I was one of them, because I was closely associated with the Liberal Party. Some of these became directors pursuant to their positions within the party. For example, Tony Staley, as federal president, became a director. John Howard became a director as leader of the Federal Parliamentary Liberal Party. Freehills go on to say, we understand that this is one of the many responsibilities which the leader of the Federal Parliamentary Liberal Party takes on as part of his official role within the wider party organisation. Other responsibilities of the leader include being a member of the Federal Executive of the Liberal Party and so on. And let me go on to say that Article 4.3a of the Articles of Association of the Centre provide that directors must not be paid fees for acting in their capacity as directors. Article 3b provides that directors are entitled to be paid all travelling and other out-of-pocket expenses, but because I didn't undertake any on behalf of the Centre, I have to say that I didn't claim anything. It goes on to say that the MRC is a non-profit organisation formed for public policy purposes and operates on a not-for-profit basis. At the time of its establishment, we understood the MRC to be an offshoot of the Liberal Party of Australia, established to advance the Liberal philosophy supported by the party. Given its nature, the MRC may be distinguished from that of a popularly understood conception of a public company run for profit motives. This is because there are no shares to be traded, it is not involved in activities for profit, and its members and directors do not gain any financial benefit from their role with the company. Mr Speaker, I not only reject the honourable member's question, but I reject the claim that I'm in any way in conflict with the Code of Conduct.
The Honourable Member Reid Monero. The Honourable Member Reid Monero has already been called. The Honourable Prime Minister tabled the document. The Honourable Member Reid Monero.
Mr Speaker, my question is addressed to the Treasurer. Can the Treasurer inform the House of the retail trade figures for February released this morning? What does the trend indicate about the government's economic policy and the outlook for the current account deficit?
The Honourable Treasurer.
I thank the Honourable Member for Eden Monero for his question. You may be aware that retail trade figures for February released this morning show retail trade has been growing at a trend rate of about 0.3% a month since November and has risen by a very healthy 4.3% over the year to February. Seasonally adjusted figures in February, whilst showing a 1% fall, taken together with a 1.9% increase in January, show a total growth of 0.9% over the 2 months. Trend data continues to point to a healthy but not excessive growth in private consumption. I indicated yesterday in the House that in relation to the current account deficit, where Australia faces adverse external challenges in relation to exports, one of the advantages we have in relation to the cyclical position on the current account is that demand in the domestic economy is sustainable. Healthy consumption growth, while not too excessive, taken together with good inflation and a budget moving into surplus, means that Australia has a sustainable position in relation to its current account as well. Mr Speaker, I think most people will acknowledge the fact that good retail figures have been driven by a low interest rate policy of this government, including benefits now starting to flow to business lenders with margins coming down in relation to business overdrafts. As far as the government is concerned, Mr Speaker, the issues that are of concern to the Australian public are still the issues of concern to this government. We're interested in families and delivering benefits to families. You won't get much interest from the Labor Party about that. We're interested about tax system and decent debate about tax and how we can improve the Australian taxation system. You won't get much talk out of the Labor Party over that. We're interested in bringing down Australia's debt, Mr Speaker, and
making our waterfronts more productive, but you won't get questions from the Labor Party over that. We're interested in low home rates for Australian mortgage payers, but you don't get much interest from the Australian Labor Party over that, Mr. Speaker. Here you have a campaign by the Australian Labor Party trawling through the trash cans, doing everything they can to keep the debate of issues of national importance, Mr. Speaker. As far as the government is concerned, we'll get on with good government. We'll get on with delivering benefits to Australian families, and we'll get on with helping home buyers, Mr. Speaker.
Before I call the Leader of the Opposition on behalf of the members of the House, the Honourable Member for Batman will remain silent. On behalf of the members of the Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to the representatives of the Japanese Diet who are in the House on the political exchange program. The Honourable the Leader of the Opposition.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Does the Prime Minister recall telling a media conference on 15 October 96, and I quote, "I've had a lot of talks with a lot of my colleagues in recent days and I've very forcibly reminded them of their obligations." Prime Minister, when you were very forcibly reminding your colleagues of their obligations, did you also tell them that you'd already slipped in the back door to divest your own directorship? Now, the very divesting, although I would have indicated you thought you had a conflict of interest, but had no intention of declaring it.
Members of the government remain silent. When everybody returns to silence, I'll call the Honourable the Prime Minister.
I completely reject the motive imputed to me by the Leader of the Opposition. It is completely phony, it is false, it is inaccurate, and it bears no relationship to the fact. This is an absolutely insubstantial claim. It lacks any merit. It lacks any time. You are wasting your own time and you are wasting the time of the Australian people. You are utterly determined on a course to ignore the true interests of the Australian people. There is no substance in this claim, and you can ask me all the questions you like. There is no merit, no substance in this claim whatever.
When the House resumes its silence, the Honourable Member for Page.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is addressed to the Minister for Employment, Education, Training and Youth Affairs. Is the Minister aware of claims about universities' funding and access to university places? What are the facts of the situation?
The Minister of Employment, Education, Training and Youth Affairs.
We've lost some light, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member for Page for his question.
The Honourable
and I am aware of claims about university funding, and in fact these claims are coming from the member for Werriwa, who seems to have taken a couple of hours off from promoting his book to shoot out a press release. I can only assume, Mr. Speaker, that he was stung by comments in caucus yesterday. This article in the Sydney Morning Herald talks about Latham's hard line unnerves Labor, and a number of members of Parliament expressed their concerns about the risks involved and about his performance in the education portfolio. And I have to say, Mr. Speaker, when you read the press release, those concerns are well justified, because this press release put out by the member for Werriwa is replete with inaccuracies and false statements. And Mr. Latham, I just quote. Well, let me just quote from the press release.
Honourable members will remain silent. The Minister has the call.
The press release says that universities this year, listen to this, because we'll get the facts in a minute, that universities this year are facing the biggest funding cuts, the greatest cut in student places, and the introduction of upfront fees. Well now, Mr. Speaker, let's just see what the actual facts of the situation are. There are no cuts to university funding this year. In fact, Commonwealth funding for universities is up $40 million over last year. This is an increase, but to the member where it looks like a cut, it makes you wonder about some of those footnotes in the book. And total university revenue over the last 2 years, government and non-government, and of course our policies are designed to give the universities the ability to raise funds as well from alternative sources. Total university revenue.
The Honourable Member Carrillo on a point of order.
Standing Order 59 suggests that the Minister should be directing his questions to the Chair. He has his back to you. Could you bring him to order, please?
The Honourable Member Carrillo will resume his seat. Can I say to all members, however, that the point of order does have relevance. There's far too much cross-chat across the chamber. I suggest the Minister addresses. The honourable member will withdraw that statement. Honourable Member Hunter. The Honourable Minister will resume answering the question but direct his remarks through the Chair.
Mr Speaker, you'll be particularly interested to know the total revenue for the universities is $550 million higher this year than it was in the last year of the Labor government. Commonwealth-funded student places, far from falling, are increasing. There are 10,000 more Commonwealth-funded student places in universities this year than there were in Labor's last year. In fact, the total number of undergraduates is up 19,000. But the member for Werra was going round telling people that places are being cut. And in fact, funding per fully funded student place from the Commonwealth is now the highest for 8 years. Mr Speaker, when it comes to compulsory upfront fees, the champions of compulsory upfront fees are the Labor Party, because of course they have been insisting on compulsory upfront fees for student unionism for many, many years. And those compulsory upfront fees are to fund their union mates. And we may well ask the member for Werra whether those are included in the upfront fees he intends to abolish. The fact is that when it comes to the portfolio, the member for Werra, to his own portfolio, is just as weak in standing up to the union pressures on the Labor Party as every other member of the front bench, including the dinosaurs he's trying to get rid of. And it's very revealing that, as he said in his speech at the ALP Hobart conference early this year, I look forward to working closely with the leadership of the two unions, the AEU and the NTEU, the National Tertiary Education Union, to turn the contents of this platform chapter into the programs and policies of a Beazley Labor government. Now, there won't be a Beazley Labor government, and the reason there won't be is because when it comes to any portfolio policy, the only policy is the one handed out to them by the unions. And that's why he's out there today talking to his union mates who are organising this day of action. Mr Speaker, this day of action is totally unjustified. It is an example of the Labor Party union strike ethic eroding the culture of learning and rational debate in the universities. There's only one party in this parliament committed to pursuing the interests of students in this country, and that is the coalition.
When the House resumes its silence, the Honourable Deputy Leader of the Opposition. The Honourable
Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister,
and
I refer to the Prime Minister's emphasis on the non-profit status of the Menzies Research Limited as an explanation for his actions. Is the Prime Minister aware of the decision in the court case of Commonwealth Bank and Friedrich, in which it was held that there's nothing in statutory common law to suggest that the standard to be expected of a part-time non-executive director of a company not-for-profit is different from the standard expected of any other director of a profit-making company?
No difference.
Does he still stand by his assertion, in the light of that status of the law, that he did not have a conflict of interest in Menzies Research Centre Limited because it was a not-for-profit company? Or will he now admit that he was in serious breach of his own ministerial code of conduct from March until he scuttled away from that directorship in October 1996?
The question goes very close to being... the Honourable Prime Minister resume his seat. The Honourable Member for North Sydney on a point of order.
Mr Speaker, I put it to you that that question is asking for a legal opinion and should be ruled out under Standing Order 144.
The question related to whether or not some facts pertaining to the Prime Minister's responsibility are in fact true or not. In that instance, I therefore call on the Prime Minister to respond to the question.
The answer to the question, Mr Speaker, is no, I'm not aware of that case, but it doesn't make any difference to what I said earlier.
The Honourable Member for Menzies.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is addressed to the Minister for Workplace Relations and Small Business.
The Honourable Member for Prospect.
Minister, recent media reports on the waterfront say that the training by P&C stevedores is inadequate. Could you advise the House of the level of training necessary to operate a portainer, and what are the efficient operation of this equipment on the waterfront would mean for Australia's importers and exporters?
The Honourable Minister for Workplace Relations and Small Business.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Part of the union campaign against Patrick's is to assert and to attempt to discredit the training operation which PCS is running at Webb Dock, Mr. Speaker. And of course they're doing that as really a blind and as a disguise to the inefficiencies on the Australian waterfront. A typical example of this sort of campaign by the MUA was Dave Cushing, a member of the MUA, who said on radio just a few days ago, he said, when our trainees, we've had some trainees last year who came on, they took 3 months to be fully operationally trained in safety, every safety aspect, in getting up and running, being trained properly and everything. Mr. Speaker, safety is an important issue. Unfortunately, when you look at the record of the stevedoring industry, in fact, it is a very poor record indeed. And the evidence for that, Mr. Speaker, is available in a report prepared by Michael Eason, a former executive of the ACTU, who demonstrated the fact that this industry had one of the worst safety records of any industry in Australia. In fact, worse than the coal industry, where a lot of efforts have been made to improve safety, but which has had, unfortunately, a poor record for a long time. Mr. Speaker, we've had now, there have been a number of people trained now to run this heavy equipment on the Australian wharf, and I think their personal stories are interesting to give people a more balanced appreciation of what it's like. For example, in the paper today, there's a young woman who's 22. She's a science graduate, raised on a Victorian dairy farm, and she says for her training's been a ball. Security people and fellow trainees have been very friendly, and safety has been a high priority. And she began at Webb Dock in early March, and she reckons it's a pretty good deal. She's working for a 35-hour week at $900. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of Australians who'd be prepared to put in a decent day's work for an annual salary which she's able to obtain. She's now completed 3 weeks of training, and as she says, she's now been sufficiently trained to herself go on and be able to train others, subject to having a supervisory position in place. And Mr. Speaker, Carmel Egan is another young woman, and I say, in one sense, is the face of the future on the Australian waterfront, because she's also been working on the waterfront. This is what she says. She's an independent person, a journalist who went down to see what it was like, and she said, and I quote from the paper, she said, the wharfies claim they deserve their pay and conditions because their work is dangerous, difficult and highly skilled. She said, yesterday I gained 100% in the theory assessment for my National Certificate of Competency to operate a Portainer crane. She then says, it was neither difficult nor easy. And Mr. Speaker, lastly, there was a very interesting article in the Daily Commercial News just a couple of days ago by the bloke who's the president and managing director of the company, I think a Norwegian company, which actually makes container Portainer cranes. So he's sort of one of the world's experts in what it takes to run one of these machines. And he says, while stressing complete neutrality in Australia's waterfront problems, he wants to keep out of those, Mr. Stig Gustafsson said, today's Portainer cranes are basically operated by 2 joysticks, and it would take an average person a fortnight to learn to operate the machine. He then goes on to say, if someone has not mastered the skills involved in that time, he or she should not be there, he said. Now, Mr. Speaker, there's a dispute going on in Brisbane today. Industrial action being taken by the MUA and supported by a weak leader unable to
resume his
order about length. And if you're not going to make these ministers bring their answers quickly to an end, we will continue to get up drawing your attention to it.
The honourable member will resume his seat. As he knows, ministers sometimes take longer than others in answering questions. I suggest that the Leader of the House is drawing his answer to a conclusion.
I am, Mr. Speaker, because I've been 4 minutes. I've been 4 minutes, and 5 minutes is enough. Mr. Speaker, the point I make, Mr. Speaker...
The honourable members of the opposition remain silent.
The point I make in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, is
remain
that...
silent. The Minister will resume his place.
The MUA are
The Honourable Minister will resume his seat. When members of the opposition remain silent, the Minister will conclude his answer. The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Member for Graindale will remain silent.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, today in Brisbane we have industrial action being run by the MUA.
The Honourable Member for Graindale, the Honourable Member for Brisbane.
because they have had and taken a commercial decision to sublet their property. Mr. Speaker, it is time for some real competition, and the people who will benefit from real competition are the farmers, the exporters, and the business community in Brisbane and Queensland that for far too long has waited for a more efficient waterfront.
The honourable member for Hotham.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, do you recall saying, and I quote, "Unless the Parliament is assured that Senator Richardson either disclosed his interest as a director of the radio station whenever he participated in cabinet discussions on broadcasting matters, or absented himself from those discussions, he must, in accordance with accepted cabinet practice, resign from the ministry." Prime Minister, didn't you chair the cabinet meeting on the 1st of October 1996, which decided to provide the Menzies Research Centre with a grant of $400,000? Can you assure the Parliament that you declared your directorship when this matter was discussed, or did you absent yourself from that part of the cabinet meeting?
When the House resumes its silence, I'll call the Prime Minister. Could I have silence, please? The Honourable Prime Minister.
About Senator Richardson, and I'll naturally, in accordance with my long-standing and prudent practice, I will check the words attributed to me by the Honourable Member for Hotham before acting in total reliance. But the Honourable Member comes to the decision that was taken, I think, on the 1st of October 1996 by the government to grant $100,000 to the Menzies Foundation, and also to grant $100,000 to the Evatt Foundation, and also, and hang on, it gets better, and also to grant tax-deductible status to the Menzies Research Centre. Now let me say a couple of things about that, and then I'll come to the issue of declaration, which has been asked by the member for Hotham. The first thing that I would report to you is that on the day that the cabinet met, I happened to ring the Leader of the Opposition, and I rang the Leader of the Opposition, and I said, Kim, we have it in mind to give $100,000 to the Menzies Centre, and in the interest of political balance, to give $100,000 to the Evatt Foundation, and also to grant tax deductibility to the Menzies Research Centre, because Evatt has already got it. And I might add in parenthesis that I was the Treasurer who in 1981 granted tax deductibility to the Evatt Foundation. And I said, I apologise to my colleagues for the decision that I took. No, they've never been forgiven.
Honourable members of the government remain silent.
Sit down, son.
When the honourable members of the government resume their silence, the honourable member Hotham has a point of order.
A point of order, and it goes to relevance, Mr. Speaker. The specific question was, did he declare or did he absent himself? That's what he's got to answer, and if he doesn't, we'll keep asking it.
The honourable member for Hotham goes way beyond the bounds of propriety in raising a point of order. The Prime Minister, as he knows, is answering his question in exactly the same way as successive ministers. The honourable member for Prospect really doesn't seem to want to stay in this House. I suggest you remain silent. The Prime Minister is answering the question in exactly the same way as ministers from governments of all persuasions have done so for many years. The Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, so I relayed that to the Leader of the Opposition, and I said that's what we have in mind, and we were wondering if you might be able to support the decision. He said that sounds terrific, I'll take it. And that was the response of the Leader of the Opposition. Now, Mr. Speaker, I've said before that I don't report what is discussed in cabinet. But I would make the statement that I had no personal private interest to declare.
The honourable member for North Sydney. When the honourable members of the opposition resume their silence, the honourable member for North Sydney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is addressed to the Minister for Immigration and Multicultural Affairs. Can the Minister inform the House of the importance of the government's policy of maintaining proper skill levels in our migration program? Can he also inform the House what impact there would be on skill levels if the program was expanded by 50,000 places per year?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration and Multicultural Affairs.
Well, I thank the Honourable Member for North Sydney for his question, and particularly in relation to the importance of maintaining skill levels in the migration program and the impact that any significant further increase might have upon the skill levels that now pertain. Can I just say, first of all, that the government has, of course, been working very hard to regain public confidence in the migration program and the way in which it's conducted. And as part of restoring that public confidence, we've been putting in place a proper balance between skilled migration and the family migration stream. When we came to office, family migration was 70% of the program. Skilled migration was a mere 30%. We now have a situation where the the skill proportion of the program is 50%. We've raised the overall skill level of migrants, and I think it's important to understand that. When we came to office, there was a queue or a pipeline of some 60,000 people seeking to access places that were, I think, 10,000 available, so it was a queue for about 6 years. And of course, the overall skill level was not as high, simply because the pass mark, which was required to be met, was at a very low level. We raised the pass mark to what is now an historic high level. We've prescribed a wider range of applications or occupations that require English for them to be able to be recognised here in Australia, and we've also reassessed the range of occupations that can be accepted. We now receive here in Australia a younger, more highly skilled migrant stream who are providing a net benefit to the Australian economy, and clearly a group of people who in the main are not welfare dependent. And it ought to be recognised that even under the skill levels that were pertaining, the lower skill levels pertaining when Labor is in office, under the longitudinal survey that was being conducted, the participation rate for skilled migrants was high, and the unemployment rates, even 18 months after arrival, were relatively low. I think in most of the categories well below the Australian average, in the independent category about the same. Now, it's interesting that there are some people, I think, who want to talk about population policy, and I think those who talk about population policy are speaking in code. The code being either they want a significantly larger population and thus arguing for it, or a significantly reduced population and are arguing for that. And the natural consequence of that would be either a significantly larger migration program or a smaller program. And it's important that those who want to talk about population questions are prepared to tell us what they have in mind. Mr. Kennett's prepared to tell us what he has in mind. He argues that we ought to increase the skilled migration program by 50,000. Now, while we obviously welcome support for a larger skilled program, it ought to be understood that if you were going to obtain the sorts of numbers that he was speaking of, you would have to significantly degrade the overall skill level. That would mean that you would be getting migrants who were either significantly older, would have a lower level of recognised and professional skills, and probably would not have English language capacity, which is the major factor that will determine their success in the Australian labour market. And well, there are. I mean, the longitudinal survey.
The question, not answer interventions.
The longitudinal survey shows that people without English language skills, for instance, I'm producing it for you. The longitudinal survey shows that.
Address your remarks to me, and don't respond to a question on the side of the House, please.
Mr. Speaker, let me make it clear through you that the longitudinal survey shows that people who come without English language skills have unemployment rates of the order of 50%. And that's one of the reasons that where you can use English language capacity, that's one of the reasons why where you can use English language capacity for selection, and you can in the skilled areas, that it produces a far more beneficial outcome. But let me make it clear that if the state's view was to be accepted, it would require them to adopt different views in relation to recognition of skills. It would require them to look at a different approach to regional migration, and particularly on the part of Victoria. One of the things that I will, Mr. Speaker, I have one final point to make. One of the points I would make, Mr. Speaker, in relation to Victoria is that while it has been arguing for a 50% increase in skilled migrants to Australia, when it was given the opportunity to fill a mere 200 places within a designated regional migration program, where all they would have to do is to make the appropriate designations, they couldn't fill one place. I have to say, if you can't fill 200 places, I don't know how you can argue to fill 50,000 places.
The honourable member for Hotham, and the House comes to order.
Don't worry, fishnets. Prime Minister, did you declare your interest or absent yourself?
The government will remain silent. The honourable member
Don't lead Glassjaw. Don't lead Glassjaw.
I'd suggest that the honourable member and the Minister for Foreign Affairs stop making exchanges across the bar table, and the members of the government should allow, when you remain silent on both sides, the honourable members of the opposition, the honourable member Hotham has the floor.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, did you declare your interest or absent yourself when you presided over the October Cabinet meeting which gave benefits to a company of which you were still a director?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
That I had no private, personal, financial interest in the company, therefore I had no interest.
The Honourable Member for Hinkler. The Honourable Member for Brisbane will remain silent. The Honourable Member for Hinkler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is addressed to the Minister for Family Services, representing the Minister for Communications, Information Economy and the Arts. Minister, can you inform the House of the benefits which residents of my electorate and that of my colleague, the member for Wide Bay, will receive as a result of a grant which is to be made out of the Commonwealth Government's Regional Communications Infrastructure Fund, Networking the Nation? Minister, can you further advise what other benefits will accrue to regional Australia?
The Honourable Minister for Family Services, representing the Minister for Communications in another place. Honourable members will remain silent before the Minister starts. Can we have some silence? The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for Hinkler for his question. Indeed, there has been an announcement by my colleague, the Minister for Communications, about additional grants under the Regional Telecommunications Infrastructure Fund, that $250 million fund, to address the improvements of telecommunications services in regional Australia. And indeed, in your electorate and in the electorate of the member for Wide Bay, there are two specific programs, and I should draw attention to those. In the Wide Bay 2020 Growth Management Project, the Information Access, the $680,000 odd for the implementation of that project. And what it will do, it'll exactly establish a digital network covering some 10 local shires in the Wide Bay and Hinkler electorates, providing local call internet access to all residents. And local councils will be encouraged to use the network to provide public access to the internet within their localities. And information training and awareness will be a feature of this project. And what it will do, it'll take the importance of the internet right around those two electorates. And also in the shire in your electorate, there's another $392,000 for the provision of 5 public access and training centres across a region of 15,000 square kilometres. What needs to be understood that the distances in this nation need to be combated, and we can only do that by successfully improving the communication services. And these two projects specifically targeted in that particular area help that immensely. There's some 93 projects, honourable members should be aware, that have already been approved. $50 million has been expended to address these types of projects. And I might draw attention to other projects that have been announced by my colleague today. $3.2 million in the Northern Territory for an electronic outback project, which will involve a rollout of satellite infrastructure. I cannot overemphasise the importance of the satellite infrastructure to the development of linking regional and remote Australia to the rest of the world. It's exceptionally important.
and 14 remote communities will benefit from this project. Another interesting one is $1.3 million for the Women's Justice Network in southwest Queensland, 16 locations for a 3-year pilot to assist women needing independent legal advice through video conference sites, training for community workers and connections to the Legal Aid Information Database, taking legal aid in a practical way, utilising new technologies to people who need it in remote Australia. There's also a project, Mr. Speaker, in Queensland. Some $2.65 million will be expended to establish internet service provider points. That will cover an area of 28% of Queensland, covers the electorate from my colleague, the Minister for Veterans Affairs, from Roma to Charleville, right down to the South Australian border. And finally, Mr. Speaker, one project that I'm particularly pleased to see has been released, and it's a Telehealth Tasmanian network, $5.5 million to assist with a network of 50 telehealth facilities to improve access to health services for regional and remote Tasmania. Takes in the 2 Bass Strait Islands, Flinders and King Island, in the most decentralised state in this nation. These are the sort of projects that you people opposed. You opposed these projects to enhance the opportunities for regional and remote dwellers in this nation to connect with the rest of the nation. These are decisions that are about connecting all of Australia to the future. You opposed it, you should be ashamed of it.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
My question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, your consistent defence of Senator Pero, who also concealed his interest, has been that we could not show, quote, that Senator Pero made specific representations on behalf of companies in which he had an interest. Prime Minister, now we have established that you presided over meetings of Cabinet when you were still director of a company, meetings which directly benefited that company. Haven't you breached your own code?
Yeah. No. The Honourable Prime Minister. The Honourable Member for Karangabite. Here. When the House resumes some silence, the Honourable Member for Karangabite.
This is an outstanding question.
Mr. Speaker, my question is addressed to the Minister for Workplace Relations and Small Business. Minister, are you aware of reports in today's media that the government is prepared to establish a framework for redundancy payments for wharfies? Are these reports accurate? And how would the government system differ from that of the Waterfront Industry Reform Authority model?
The Honourable Minister for Workplace Relations and Small Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for Karangabite for his question. Mr. Speaker, I have said repeatedly that in the maritime industry generally there is a significant problem of overmanning, and the more obvious symptoms of that are the fact that there's a lot of rorts and inefficiencies, a lot of idle time and very poor productivity levels. Mr. Speaker, for example, in the blue water segment of the industry, there's no question that there's overmanning, and I've discussed that with the MUA, the representative union, in a discussion before Christmas, and they acknowledged that there's overmanning, and there have been ongoing discussions about how that issue needs to be dealt with. For example, the government has taken a step to withdraw the Australian Maritime Safety Authority from the management of the pool. Similarly, in the stevedoring industry, Mr. Speaker, there's no doubt that there is significant overmanning. That is not, of course, acknowledged publicly by the union, but there's no doubt, again, from the evidence of the restrictive work practices and the like, that something needs to be done to improve the efficiency of the industry. Mr. Speaker, I think it's fair to say that the industry generally is unique in respect of the stevedoring aspect. That was really recognised by the previous Labor administration when they set up the Waterfront Industry Reform Authority, the WIRA process. In that process, Mr. Speaker, a lot of taxpayers' funds were expended, something like $160 million. And the end result, Mr. Speaker, as we've demonstrated in this House day after day, is that we did not get the significant reform that we obviously need on the Australian waterfront. Well, if it's 2 minutes, I've got 2 to go. Thank you very much. And to have you marking time sitting there, Simon's about as all you're good for, I'd have to say. But, Mr. Speaker...
The Honourable Minister will direct his remarks through the chair.
Well, thank you.
The Honourable Member Hoffman will remain silent.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, triviality is his specialty, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister will direct his response through the chair.
Mr. Speaker, the Labor Party oversaw the spending of something like $430 million and basically got nothing for it. Mr. Speaker, the last thing I'd say is that in this circumstance, obviously, where there is an overmanning situation and where the companies take action to address that problem, where there are people leaving the industry, then their entitlement should be fully paid out. I've said that repeatedly, Mr. Speaker, last month, the previous month, all the way back to December. The two differences between our approach, I suppose, Mr. Speaker, and the Labor Party's approach is that our view is that where there is a cost, that cost should be borne by the industry. As to the mechanism for that, well, that's a secondary matter, but a cost associated should be met by the industry. And secondly, Mr. Speaker,
the Labor Party remain silent.
Mr. Speaker, secondly, we look to the industry for genuine reform, genuine restructuring, so that we can finally see for Australia a far more efficient waterfront.
The honourable member for Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to the Minister for Transport and Regional Development. Minister, you'll recall my question to you on the 23rd of March regarding your government's increase of jet departures over residential areas of Sydney by 300%. And incidentally, I accept your belated withdrawal and apology.
The honourable minister will direct his question.
Will the minister inform the House what is the government's response to the recent British paper in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health, which found that children who were born and reside near airports and under flight paths are 20% more likely than their peers who are not aircraft noise and pollution affected to die of leukemia and solid tumour non-blood cancers before they reach adulthood?
The Honourable Minister for Transport and Regional Development.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for Lowe for his question, and just by way of correction, there wasn't an apology.
The honourable minister will respond to the question.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of the report that the honourable member refers to, but the honourable member raises the point about air traffic movements around Sydney. I don't know where he gets his 300% from, but obviously the government's targets as far as the long-term operating plan are still in sight at 55% of movements to the south over water, 17% to the north, 15% to the west, 13% to the east. What I will say with regard to the environmental conditions that surround major airports such as Sydney and in the Sydney Basin.
The honourable minister will resume his seat. The honourable member Lowe on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question was...
What is your point of order?
Well, my point of order relates to relevance. My question was specific in regards to the matter I raised about the results of the tests that were conducted in the US.
The Minister is entirely in order in his response. The honourable member resume his seat. The honourable Minister for Transport and Regional Development.
I was just about to make a comment with regard to the environmental impacts around airports such as in the Sydney Basin, where there is a lot of conjecture and different attitudes and levels of misinformation in terms of the level of pollution in the Sydney City Basin. And I think that the important thing that members should note, and particularly the member for Lowe, is that my understanding is that about 2 to 3% of the pollution in the Sydney Basin is from aircraft, about 70% from motor cars, and the balance from industry. It's not about revolving or emanating from use of airports. I think the member for Lowe should recognise that in his further questions.
The honourable member for Aston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is addressed to the Minister for Foreign Affairs. Can the Minister inform the House of the results of his recent talks in Washington with the IMF, the World Bank and the United States administration, and the measures Australia is taking to relieve the present difficulties in Indonesia? Can the Minister further inform the House what has been the response from Indonesia to Australia's role?
The Honourable Foreign Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for his question, and indeed in response to the interjection from the member for Prospect, point out that it's nice to know there is a member, Mr. Speaker, in this House who's interested in serious policy issues, being, in this case, the member for Aston, because in fact there isn't one on that side of the House, apparently. Mr. Speaker, the Australian government does regard the relationship with Indonesia as one of our most fundamental relationships, and we don't go out of our way to assist Indonesia simply because simply because we want to help other people from the goodness of our hearts, although we have good hearts, but we also do it because we wish to promote our national interest. And it is in our national interest, Mr. Speaker, that Indonesia is both a prosperous country and a stable country. We have therefore been very concerned about the economic crisis that has beset Indonesia, and we are doing everything we possibly can within the limits of our resources to assist that country maintain stability and to rebuild its prosperity. Mr. Speaker, in that context, as the member for, in response to the member for Aston's question, I visited Washington a couple of weeks ago and had discussions with the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and senior United States officials as well about this situation. And there were really three main focuses of my discussion: the IMF program, the private debt situation in Indonesia, and also the food security issue. Mr. Speaker, I can say that in my discussions with Mr. Kamdasu, the Managing Director of the IMF, that the views of the Australian government were very well received, and it's pleasing to see that there are positive signals now emerging that Indonesia and the International Monetary Fund are now working constructively together, and we would expect an announcement soon. Mr. Speaker, I also, as I mentioned, did take the opportunity to discuss the private debt situation in Indonesia, because clearly until a way can be found through the restructuring of private sector debt, then the economy is going to find it difficult to stabilise. And there was an opportunity to discuss those issues with senior United States officials, and also subsequently when I was in Japan to talk to the Japanese about that issue as well. And again, on the issue of private sector debt, we're optimistic that a statement will be made in the near future which should take the whole of that issue further forward. Finally, Mr. Speaker, let me say that while I was in Washington, I had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Jim Wolfensohn, the President of the World Bank, and I discussed with him a proposal that had been put forward originally by the Prime Minister to Mr. Wolfensohn, that the World Bank should coordinate a meeting of international aid donors in order to provide direct emergency assistance to the people of Indonesia, who of course, and in particular the poor people of Indonesia, who are suffering the most at this very difficult time. We on our part, Mr. Speaker, believe that we do have a humanitarian as well as a national interest responsibility to help the ordinary people of Indonesia as best we can at this time. And Mr. Wolfensohn, I'm very pleased to say, agreed that he would coordinate a meeting of donors in Washington on the 1st of April, that is today, and so that meeting will be taking place today. Australia will be represented by Trevor Kennelly, the Director General of AusAid, and there are a number of other governments that will be represented at senior levels, and Mr. Wolfensohn himself will be there. So, Mr. Speaker, over and above the assistance we've given with trade credits, the assistance we've given through the IMF package, the Australian government has given very significant diplomatic support to try to help with the resolution of the very difficult problems that Indonesia faces. And it is important that members understand that it is in the national interest, that we do that. We're not just doing it out of the goodness of our hearts. It is in the national interest we do that. So, Mr. Speaker, I know the opposition doesn't wish to hear any of this, because they're not interested, because they're not any longer, interested in serious policy issues. They're not interested in serious policy issues.
The honourable member Caldwell on a point of order. Have you finished your answer? No, the honourable member for Caldwell on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, this should have been a ministerial statement so that we can have the opportunity to discuss this issue. And that is the point that's been made by the opposition.
The honourable member for Caldwell resume his seat. I point out that there was when the House resumes its silence, including the honourable member for Prospect, I'd point out that the Minister's response related to a meeting taking place today, and as a result it seemed to me the answer did have real relevance in an answer to a question without notice. The honourable member for Hotham.
Mr. Speaker, my question is again to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, do you recall in defending your secret directorship last night, you claimed that the difference between yourself and Senator Richardson was that he held the directorship whilst Minister for Communications. Prime Minister, didn't Senator Richardson resign as Director of 2HD just 6 days after he was appointed Communications Minister and 3 months before you raised it in the Parliament. But didn't you retain your directorship for 6 months as Prime Minister? Isn't the only difference, Prime Minister, between your behaviour and that of Senator Richardson that he saw the potential conflict and acted to remove it, while you did nothing until you thought you might be caught and then you hid it?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, my recollection is that I said there were a number of differences, and one of them, in which, of course, the Honourable Member did not refer to, was the fact that 2HD was a commercial operation. It was a commercial operation. He says there's no difference. Well, I think most Australians know the difference. They know the difference. I think most Australians know the difference between a non-profit organisation and Coles Myer. And that is what is involved in this, and you are once again wasting time on trivial issues. It is now 1 minute to 3, not one question from the Australian Labor Party on any issue of any relevance, no policy, no interest, no concern. You are utterly indifferent to the interests of ordinary Australians, and the longer you go on with this trivial muckraking, the more damage you do yourself.
That was Wednesday's Question Time in the House of Representatives. ABC Television will be back for live coverage of Question Time in the House today at 2 o'clock. Until then, goodbye from Parliament House, Canberra.
Good morning and welcome to our movie. Cicely Courtnidge stars in the 1936 musical comedy Everybody Dance.
Tommy, get away from there.
My house to go with you was the end. Nothing you can say or do will change my mind.
What did he say, Mom?
He wouldn't act right.
Well, that settles it. I'm going to tell that guy a thing or three.
Oh, no, Tommy, please.
Listen to Mother. After all, he is your grandfather.
Well, nobody's going to make my mother cry. That's all right. Cheer up, Ma. Gee, I don't really have to go to college. I can get a job, you know. You'd be surprised at what I know already.
God bless you, Tommy. Come along.
Young man, what
does this mean?
It means the hat's done for. So what?
Well, nothing in particular. I didn't like it anyway. It wasn't the least bit jaunty.
Oh, is that your hat?
Oh, yes, it was my hat.
I'm awful sorry about it.
Yes, you seem quite depressed. So does the hat.
Oh, Tommy.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, hello.
Oh, well, Mary. Well.
Children, this is your Uncle Wilbur.
I didn't think I was capable of it. Well, boy. Darling. Oh, really, I mean, how quickly these things happen.
Isn't he like Tom?
Yes. Why, he even jumps on hats like him. Come on, sit down. Here we are. Oh. Tell me, have you seen Father?
Yes. I asked him for a loan to complete the children's education.
Oh, don't tell me what he said. I can guess. You know, I've been wondering about you, Mary. Since Tom died, what have you been doing?
Oh, the only thing I know, secretarial work. And about a couple of years ago, my sister in England took over a farm that's been doing very well. She's been helping us. But, of course, I can't expect her to pay for the children's college.
Oh, I think Father's been disgraceful.
He hasn't softened one bit.
Oh, just because you were his secretary and married his son.
I suppose it was rather hard for him to lose his son.
Lose his son? What's got him down is losing a secretary.
I'd like to apologize about that hat. I didn't mean to jump on it. I thought it was his.
Oh, that's quite all right. Yes. Oh, I just thought of something. Don't go, will you? This is his.
Oh, no, you mustn't.
Oh, it's quite all right, dear. Shoot.
Oh, no, Tom.
Oh, well, what's that? What's that?
Well?
Come along, I think we'd better be going. Goodbye, Wilbur.
Wilbur.
Yes, Father. Well, goodbye. There you are. Well, I was just advising your grandchildren.
Whose grandchildren?
Mine. I mean, my nephew and niece. Now, Father, I think you ought to be just a little bit nicer. Now, wait. To Mary.
How many times have I told you never to mention that woman to me? The next time you do, you'll go out. With a crash.
You know what I'd like to do, Mom? I'd like to take charge of Aunt Kate's farm in England.
Would you? You couldn't do that.
Sure I could. Couldn't I, Mom?
No, Tommy. I don't think you'd quite fit in with your aunt's quiet rural life. And her name is Catherine, dear, not Kate.
I told you it wasn't Kate.
Late final stop, Piper. Another Lady Kate scandal, Piper. Late final stop, Piper. Another Lady Kate scandal, Piper.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the greatest singer, the greatest entertainer, the greatest comedian in the world, Lady Kate.
I wrote that.
Hello, George. Hello, Mary. Good evening, Doc. Hello, Billy.
Hello, Kate.
Oh, I say, what beautiful hair you've lost. Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, Lady Kate. A lady on special occasions, and this is one of them.
Come on, Kate. Give us one of your funny songs and make us all cry.
Oh, a heckler. Listen, sweetheart, let's you and I play a game. Let's play a game of horsey. I'll be the front end of the horse, and you stay sweet as you are. Music soothes the savage beast. That's as old as history. Boys, that's a music cue. How about a chord in G? We will now go on as if nothing had happened. Will the front rows please move back while I have my vocal fling? You may be savage beast right now, but wait till you hear me sing. In the papers you will see that you must beware of me, because I'm such a dangerous woman. You can surely realize when you see these wicked eyes. Why, they call me a dangerous woman. I'm vanity, I'm scandalous, but folks don't believe a word of it. It's so absurd as I infer I'm a good little girl. Huh. Or haven't you ever heard of it? Shall I tell you some more? No, change the subject. All right, I will. I've been reducing in Dr. Hayes' way, separating my starches and proteins each day. I skip every morning, I'm massaged away. And what does it get me? Huh. Take a look, boys. All for our sake. 8 stone 1. 1. 8 stone. Discipline. I popped into a snack bar to have some tea and cake. The waiter said, "Madam, won't you try our special steak?" So what could I lose? I tried this special steak. And what did it get me? Kipling's boots. Oh, one bite and I knew it was horse flesh. Somebody shouted, "Whoa!" and it stopped right there. Oh, here, take the gentleman's name and address. He's answered everything. Thanks, pal. Dance. Diddly-up, diddly-up. Stop. I'm a bad sailor. There was once a couple so happy and proud. With the spirit of love, they were deeply endowed. So they prayed for a something for crying out loud. And what did he get them? Quintuplets. It's wonderful for a man to be able to raise his own troop of killer girls. He started life as a poker player, and it's taken him all these years to get a full house. This is Radio Luxembourg. Have you a baby in your home? If not, try Lane's Conservative Oil. Same song, fourth chorus, same singer, proceed. I thought that to be an MP would be bliss. So I canvassed for votes, not a house did I miss. I had mothers to tea, gave each baby a kiss. And what did it get me? Measles. Oh, everything happens to me. And my life is not so gay. Things are tough, and here's an example of how I spend each day. Up first thing in the morning, then a wild dash to the hairdresser. Then on to the dressmakers, where for 2 hours I stand fitting new dresses and clothes. Then 10 minutes for lunch, and back again here to another rehearsal, trying out new dances and dresses. Work, 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 till I can't see out of my eyes. Then I dash back home to have a rest. As soon as I put my head on the pillow, the telephone bell rings. Up I get again, and then I dash down here at night. Or on the floor, night after night, I slave for you. And what does it get me? A fortune. That's what it gets me. A fortune.
She has made my nightclub a gold mine.
She's made it a gold mine. I've made it a gold mine. I get the scandal stories in the papers, and the scandal stories get the people in the club.
Hello, Kate. You're looking marvelous.
And you haven't changed much yourself since 4 o'clock this morning. Gustav, a tall table for Mr. Wilson. He'll be under it by 11. Come on, everybody down.
Good idea. Come along, let's go. There he is, over there.
Exactly like that.
But I couldn't leave him now. He's drunk.
The drunker they are, the easier they fall. You don't suppose Kate got all those bracelets from total abstainers?
I'm not going to do it.
Don't be silly, you're broke, aren't you? You've got to eat. Come on.
Oh, hello. Come outside, kid, and meet a friend.
Now listen, Kate.
Sit down and take a load off your mind. Come in, honey. Sit down. Now, I want to talk to you about that man. Oh, dear, come in. Oh, so it's you.
What do you think you're playing at? I've got that man waiting.
That is
Now, you can't pull that stuff on me. It cost me money to bring you here. It cost me a guinea to hire that dress. Come on.
Just a minute.
You'd better keep out of my business.
And you better keep out of my club. See that?
You look out for yourself.
Get out.
I'll make
Get
you...
out. Oh, the nerve. Sit down. Do you like white mice?
No.
And you hate rats?
I loathe.
Well, keep clear of that one. He's the chief rat.
Oh, I've been such a fool. But I was desperate. I hardly know anyone in London.
You live in the country?
Yes.
Oh, a very respectable family and all that. Probably a bit of father trouble, eh?
Oh, he was impossible. I wanted to be independent and show him I could write.
So you came to London to dive in with a big splash and went head first into the mud. You're broke, aren't you?
Yes.
Now I'm sending you home tonight.
I wouldn't dare face Father.
No, this is where you can face your father. You've got nothing to be ashamed of. Yet.
Look at this. Have you seen the paper?
Oh, Lucy, I want you to fix up this little girl with one of my dresses.
The new two-piece, the one you've never even worn, I suppose.
Yes, that'll do fine.
Oh, no, really,
If it was me, I'd wear it 4 or 5 years before I give it away.
Obey me, slave. Don't take any notice of Lucy. The only time she really worries is when she's got nothing to worry over.
Well, we have to work hard for the money you earn.
Besides, a new wardrobe will make your father think you're a big success. Oh. Here, I said, this tastes of petrol.
Well, it is petrol. I've been cleaning the atomizer.
Really, of all the crazy people, I think you take the biscuit. This tastes of petrol, too.
I know, it's what I've been cleaning the atomizer with. Oh, really? Well, who'd have thought of that now?
Go on, get the new dress.
Come here.
Oh, no, look, I couldn't bear it.
Come along.
With publicity, you can't go too far.
Yes, Danny, that is fine. But Kate, she is getting annoyed. And if she finds out that it is we who are putting these things in the paper, we're finished.
I can never tell you how grateful I am.
Listen, honey, there's one motto I try to remember. Always be nice to people on your way up. You may meet the same people on your way down.
You're an angel.
Well, I'm a long way from headquarters. Lucy, take this little girl to the station and put her on the milk train.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Well, when you've time to attend to your own business, maybe you'll read what they say about you in the paper tonight.
What, am I in the paper again?
In it. You're all over it.
Another Lady Kate scandal. Duel over nightclub queen. Nobleman and diplomat fighting kitchen. What a nerve. It wasn't a duel, it was a brawl. And there wasn't any nobleman. It was a butcher boy. And the diplomat was a cook. And it wasn't over me. It was over a piece of meat. Oh, wait till I get my hands on that publicity agent. The miserable little porcupine.
Well, I didn't write it.
Now, have you got it all straight the way we worked this?
Maybe I pretend to be very mad with you.
Here, I want to talk to you.
One moment, Kate, while I forget that I am a gentleman. I tell you once more 1,000 times, I will not stand for these terrible stories about Kate. You're fired.
You can't do this, Pierre. It isn't a square deal.
I pay you to protect Kate, and if you cannot do it, poof, finish.
Listen, Pierre, you know I'm 100% for Kate. Give me another chance.
No, never.
And to think that only last week I went down to Fleet Street and fought 6 reporters to keep a story about her out of the papers. And this is my reward.
Very well. I will leave it to Kate. And what she says is okay by me.
Kate, what do you say?
I'd say your act wants a lot more rehearsing.
Huh?
Listen, this is Kate.
What? You do not trust me?
Oh, of course I trust you. With £1 million. If I had it locked up safely in a vault. And as for you, one of these days, your throat's going to get caught between my fingers, and the pressure will be all mine. Listen, one more of those stories, and I'm through.
Oh.
You've got 5 minutes.
All right, I'm just coming. Remember, one more, and poof, finish. Me and my little sales ladies have something important to tell you. Here we are ready to tell you happiness. Girls, open your sample cases. Girls, show them your sample cases. Here is how you look when you're unhappy. Here is how you look when you are gay. So, don't wear a grouch if you find that your pouch isn't as full as it should be. Don't wear a grouch and don't holler out. Ooh, if your luck's not as good as it could be. Tra-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Oh, here's what you should positively do when you feel blue. Shine. When your fortune fails you, this will cure what ails you. Shine. Trouble. Stamp them away. Trouble. Stamp them away. pose. Can the rainbow in blue dancing shoes? On with the music, on with the blues and dance. Everyone dance and dance and dance.
Kathleen Levering. I took it to her apartment, but they told me to bring it here.
There is nobody of that name here.
That's Lady Kate. All right, then. Maybe if I take it to her.
No. I never allow my artist to have telegrams until after the show. Oh, give me that paper knife here, please. I do this only for business purposes. You understand? Maybe she'll make arrangements to walk out on me, too. Your sister in taxicab accident. Died in hospital here. Her last wish was that her children should be sent to you. Please cable instructions. Superintendent, the New York Hospital.
Gee, that's too bad.
Yes. Maybe that's too bad for me, too.
There was a cable. Lucy, where are you? Must be from Mary. Oh. If only they put pictures of farms in these papers.
Of course, it's none of my business, but I don't see how you're going to live on a farm and live in London, too. You're not twins, you know.
Good job I'm not, otherwise there'd be two of me for you to look after.
You'll never get used to a farm.
Yeah, I get used to anything. I got used to you, all right. It was my sister's last wish that I should take care of the children. And that's what I'm going to do. She'd no idea I was Lady Kate. She thought I was a lady farmer, and that's what I'm going to be, as soon as the children arrive.
Of course, it's none of my business.
Well, we'll agree on that point. That'll be the estate agent. All right, I'll go. While you dust that.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, come in. Well, I can't tell you how pleased I am to see you. I sincerely hope you've brought me something good to see.
I have that.
Well, let's have a look.
Here's one for £15,000.
Oh.
Oh, but it's got everything. Barns, stables, dairies.
Including a private cinema to amuse the cows.
You're as funny here as you are in the cabaret. I saw you there last night.
Oh, hi, I remember. You were sipping a glass of water.
You know, a star of your magnitude should live in a farm like that.
Yes. Well, what's the price of that one?
It's only 4,500.
Well, I'll give you 4,000 and 2 tickets to see my cabaret.
Make it 3, because I want to take the wife's sister.
Sold. Have you got a fountain pen?
Hey.
Lucy, bring the ink.
My paper wants to know why you're leaving the country. Because we're going to live with our aunt in a farm in England, that's why. So why don't you stay with Josiah Spurgeon? Why don't you stay with him and see how you like it? Well, he's your grandfather, isn't he?
Yeah, but we're not bragging about that.
You want to know why we're not staying with Josiah Spurgeon, eh? Well, I'll tell you why. Hold it.
Driven out of their own country by a tight-fisted old buccaneer who disowned his own son. So, I'm a tight-fisted old buccaneer, am I? You'll pay for calling me that.
Oh, I didn't call you that. The newspaper called you that.
Well, why did you let him call me that? Me, your loving father.
Oh, I told the reporters you had a heart as big as a barrel.
Well, I have. Bigger than a barrel.
Oh.
Now, you have one duty. Get on the next boat and bring those children right back here. I'll show the world that I love them. The little brats.
There they are. What are they?
It must be Aunt Catherine down there waving.
Don't go waving at people you don't know.
Well, she's waving at us.
Come on.
Lovely.
Oh, look, there he is. Tommy.
I'm, Tommy Spurgeon.
Oh. And I'm your Aunt Catherine.
I knew it was you.
Yes, I told him.
Oh, and you're Shirley. Oh. Darling.
How are you, Aunt Catherine?
I'm fine. Well, you're here at last.
Yeah. Here we are.
Yes, we're here.
Well, if we are here, definitely. There's things to be got through the customs, if you don't mind me saying so. Come along, darling, it's over here. Come along, Tommy. Well, did you have a good voyage?
Very nice, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Meet a lot of nice people on board?
Sure, they were swell.
Very nice, thank you.
You know, I expect you wondered how I recognized you. Well, I had a lovely photograph of you and your mother.
Please, Aunt Catherine. Let's not talk about Mother. We haven't since...
Haven't you? Oh, poor kid.
We made it up between ourselves to never mention.
You're wrong, Tommy. Terribly wrong. You should talk about her. You must. She isn't a memory you can take out of your lives and forget and lose. She's something sweet and lovely that you must always be happy to remember. You poor kids are making yourself miserable, trying to bottle up something that should be free. Tell me about her, Shirley. She was my sister, you know. I loved her, too. impressions, everything. What's the verdict?
It's grand.
I like it fine.
Oh, look down there. Oh, Tommy, look, here's a boat.
Gee, that's keen.
I'm so glad you like it. There we are. Come on in. You like it?
Gee, it's swell.
It's over 500 years old.
Yeah?
And ready to fall to pieces any minute.
How far is it to London?
Oh, just over 50 miles.
I'd like to go to that London Bridge place.
Oh, that fell down a long while ago.
Listen, Squirt. Some night when you're safely tucked away in your little bed, I'm going to take my Aunt Catherine up to London, and we're going to see Life in the Raw.
Life in the Raw? What is Life in the Raw?
Well, it's big-time Charlie stuff.
Big-time Charlie stuff?
Yeah, you know. Nightclubs, girls kicking.
Girls kicking? Who do they kick?
Well, nobody, really.
Oh, it's a football match.
Not exactly. It's more Life in the Raw.
Oh, Life in the Raw. Then it is a football match. Sounds terrible to me. What's that?
Oh, nearly 6 o'clock, Miss Kate. Catherine.
Well, it usually is 6 o'clock at this time of the evening.
Oh, it doesn't matter, of course, but you'll be running away from here without your dinner. Of course, it's your stomach.
I beg your pardon?
Aren't you going to be here tonight, Aunt Catherine?
No, darling, I've got to run up to London.
Good, I'll run up with you.
Oh, no, Tommy. I shall only be down a short time on business.
We could go to a show or something.
No, darling, I'm afraid that's impossible. You see, I've got to discuss farm produce with some butter and egg man.
Do they buy things at night?
Sure.
I shan't be stopping here tonight.
Oh, really? I'm sorry to hear that. Why?
I've had a letter from my husband. He's annoying me again.
Do you know your husband's just had a wire from the police? He won't be annoying you again.
How do you know?
I sent the wire. Come along, children.
Oh.
Good boy.
This is a nice time to be getting home, I must say.
Master will say it quietly. Some foreign diplomats were giving a party. I just couldn't get away. Are the children still asleep?
No, they're having breakfast.
Do they know I've been out all night?
No, they think you're still asleep.
Good. Well, how am I going to get upstairs? I'm not the invisible woman, you know.
I've got a ladder to your window.
Oh, good. Well, now, you keep the kids down here while I get up on the ladder.
Oh, Lucy! Lucy!
What time did Aunt Catherine come in last night?
Aunt Catherine? Last night? Why, a little after you went to bed. Oh, fine, then just gotta get up. Come on, Tommy. correct. Everybody down. What are you talking about? Oh, you. Oh, Morning, darling. Morning. Oh, Shirley.
Hey, Catherine.
Come in, come in.
Morning.
Morning. Oh.
Aren't you going to come down and have some breakfast?
Yes, you go and order me some bacon and eggs, and I'll be down in 10 minutes. Perhaps.
Oh, say, did you get the letter that came for you last night?
No, would you get it for me, Tommy?
Sure thing.
I'll get it.
She asked me to get it.
That's when there's a sister.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yes.
You got it. Oh, now look what you done.
I didn't do it.
You did so.
You did it.
What is all this?
She tore the letter.
I didn't either. All I've got to do is to read it. It's from the Home Office.
What's a home office?
The government department, a place where there's hardly ever anyone at home. Oh, it's from Sir Roland Morton, Justice of the Peace of this district. I wonder what it's like.
Sounds like Grandpa, the monocle.
Oh.
Catherine Living. Must be that woman who's taken over the Fremantle farm, my dear. The Home Office wants me to find out if she's a suitable person to have the guardianship of some young American children.
And I think running your own paper and being a JP is too much.
Oh, nonsense, my dear, nothing. Well, I must be going. Oh, Lillian.
Yes, Dad. You ready to go?
Well, I shan't be coming to the office for half an hour or so. You might run through the proofs of that eating article for me, will you?
Yes, Father.
Well, goodbye, my dear.
Oh, goodbye, darling.
Come along, Dorothy.
If you studied agriculture at school, then you ought to know more about it.
I know plenty.
I know more than you do.
Oh, yeah? What's a Wyandotte? What's a Rhode Island Red? What's a Minorca? Oh, go play with your dollies. What's a pullet?
A gentleman hen.
You just said a pullet's a gentleman hen.
Oh, I don't believe it.
You don't even know what a pullet is.
Oh, dear. What is a pullet, Aunt Catherine? Now, you're not going to tell me what a pullet is. You don't? Tell us, Tommy.
The young hen.
Yes, it's a young hen.
What's a roost?
The thing they perch on. Quite right.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't what? Oh, no, of course not. It's where they lay their eggs.
No, it's where they sleep.
You know, you Americans simply won't know about England. Chickens don't sleep here. They sort of roost around and drowse, but they never sleep. Now, I've got into this most thoroughly. The English chicken merely relaxes, and bing, another egg. Come along, children.
I'm sort of anxious to see the place.
I'll show it to you, all right. Gee, isn't it nice? Now, the question is, does a chicken lay an egg because it wants to or must it? Egg production is a highly developed science.
Sure. Do you use the battery system or